Okay. There. I can't remember which one it is actually. Just check that. We are working on, well, we will be in a minute, a Mega Drive 2. So this one wants a CleanRGB upgrade. Now I'm going to look at making a mod for this at the same time. So I've got a lot more interest in the Mega Drive 2 recently, on the Mega Drive. And I don't really focus on them. So the camera's blurry again. See if it'll refocus. No, is that apparently what we're doing this morning? Just zero focus camera. There we go. So yeah, I've got a mod, a universal CleanRGB that'll fit this, but I want to make an easy drop-in mod, like no wires. So as I'm doing this mod, we'll figure out how to invent the new one, basically like an easier install version. Early start date is a little bit early. I'm not normally this early, normally like another hour yet, but I didn't work much yesterday, so a bit wired, needed some work. I'm just going to fix up this last prototype clean power for Saturn, then we'll jump on this this Mega Drive. If you're wondering about chats shouldn't appear now unless you're subbed. So we're trying to push for getting some subscribers and then they get some benefits. Mainly chat will only appear for subs, so it's like easier for me to focus on work, and I can only look at the subscriber chat as I'm going, and then I can just pause and look at everybody else's chat after, so it doesn't get too distracting basically. So if you still want your chats popping up on stream and getting answered a bit quick, you can always just sub on Twitch or YouTube now. I've enabled both basically, if you're wondering why it doesn't show up on stream now. Right, so that top one is the one that wants to change. Actually, I can probably do it on this. So this is all in production now. The only thing I did, the only variance from this example is the 12-volt rail doesn't quite come up to 12 volts. And that's not to do with the resistor divider I thought it was. It's to do with the frequency of the operation that I've set this one at. So changing the frequency changes the amount of heat it generates. And I must have set the 12-volt one a little bit too aggressively. So the 12 volt was never quite on long enough to reach the 12 volts, but that luckily is just a little resistor fix on here. So I'm going to go and chuck another resistor on the right value, 100k. But doing this without my scope is a little bit tricky because of the density of the components. But I kind of wanted to show it off on stream still if I can. But it's yeah, a little bit tricky without how close all the components are to do it without a scope. There we go, I'm managing just about. That's a bit short going that way. And then, yeah, the tip of this iron doesn't pass much heat. I think that's just because of the sheer size of it and the closeness of this component. So I might have to get either more. Oh yeah, I'm making it. Let me just do this under the scope. I'm making a mess because I can't see right. So I wanted to kind of show you, but this is just such a densely packed area. I really need to see with my eyes, basically. It's nice and easy under the scope. It's just difficult off scope. There we go, done. So when you've got depth perception, it definitely helps. So that's that done. Let's clean that mess up. Definitely on my to-do list, guys. A dispenser that actually works. It's become my pet peeve at the minute. Again, an actual IPA dispenser that works, because they just seem really bad quality since me first one broke. All these new ones just seem rubbish. Right, so that's hopefully the Sega Saturn bit fixed. So let's just give this a quick test and make sure it is. And then we'll get onto the Mega Drive. Oh, and one thing I need to short the bridges on here as well. Let me just do that at the same time. I'm going to run out of solder as well. I need to order some more. So I've put a few bridges on here as well, test bridges, in case the new feature I've made didn't work, but it does. So when you bridge these little pads, it makes the board operate at a lot less power intensity, so it's more suitable for the Sega Saturn, because this is so overkill. It can power 3 Sega Saturns at the same time. So setting these little solder bridges up tells it that it's just going in a Sega Saturn and not to be over crazy, like on steroids kind of thing, and ramping up ready to deliver 100 watt. So this puts it into more of a suitable mode for the Sega Saturn, and it runs basically stone cold then, which is perfect for obviously the operation it's designed for. So let's now test if we get, I think this is 3.3, is it? So yeah, that's 3.3. This one is set up at the minute to 3.3. Is it? Oh, there's a good catch. That's set to, oh sorry, that one's set to 3.3. That one's set to 5. And that one is set to 12 at the minute. So there you go, we've got 12 on there. Then if we turn the 12 down to 9 and the 3.3 up to 5, we should now have 5 on here instead of 3, which we do, and 9 on here instead of 12, which we do. So that's all good and stone cold. So literally completely like room temperature. I can show you that on the thermals, just so you can see. Right, as well. And this is an awesome, one of the best thermal cameras. This is one that Fleur didn't actually rave about and said they weren't, you know, they didn't really sell much of this, but to me, this is the best one they actually sell, especially for the price point. So you can see these are the regulators. So there's my finger. That's where we are. So these 3 regulators are the one we care about. And they're literally like cold. They're colder than the circuit board. And then the hottest thing on the board is actually a LED resistor. So that shows what it is. That little resistor that powers, you can't really see it on here. Let's get it on the overhead. The hottest thing is literally this little resistor here that just powers this LED. And it's just running at 40, 50 degrees, which is completely normal. That's well within tolerance of resistor. It doesn't feel warm if you touch it. It's that small. It's just like a pinpoint heat source. But yeah, that's all done and in production. These, I don't know whether I put them on for pre-sale. I think I did. If not, I will now, because I had a few people asking about it yesterday and wanting to buy these. So I figured instead of just not letting you buy for a few weeks, I've put them up for sale with a little note on that just says pre-sale. So you know that they are basically not here yet. They'll be a couple of weeks. I think it'll be about 2 to 3 weeks roughly, and we'll have these in stock. Let me just double check the website. Yep, so they're on the homepage of the website, and that's these exact ones you've seen. So if you went to retro6.co.uk, you can see them on the direct homepage, basically. Alright, so that's the Sega Saturn one done. We'll get now onto the Mega Drive 2. Let me just pack this thing up. And these are going out to 2 customers. We've already got 2 customers on hold, so they're going to get the first versions of this brand new board. Short of one other person that actually had an earlier prototype to test for us that it works on mods like the Saru and other things. So this has been fully confirmed working by a few people now. Right, Mega Drive 2 time. I guess we need a controller as well. And this is, the customer says it's fully working. So the first thing we need to do is confirm it actually is fully working. So we've got, this is our power supply, controllers, AV cables. So the only thing the customer sent is the actual console. We know all the other stuff works. All the games, cables, everything are ours. And then if this works, we'll be able to play a little bit of Sonic. I haven't set it up through the CRT yet, so I'm going to have to play on the live stream, which is slightly laggy, but it's certainly doable. So HDMI into, we're going through the retro scaler 2X in this instance. So all them on. That's all powered up there. So if we bring up the HDMI, I believe, I don't know, it doesn't show anything until it works. Yeah, there we go. So that's now booting up. Let's see if we get Sonic. Yes, we do. That looks terrible though. Not much colour there. And this is a hacked ROM, so that to me looks like, has this been modded at all? No, it hasn't. So this could be a, and that's the thing, I don't really know the frequency of this because it's on a retro scaler. We could be running at 60 Hertz on a 50 Hertz Mega Drive, so we're losing some of the colour. Or that could be the composite that's actually just not doing too good on this. I wonder if you've played this game, Josh. This is Sonic.exe, I believe. I used to play this in the store when we had it. I used to shit people up. Oh my god, the delay on stream is crazy today. I'm jumping and then jumping about 3 hours later. This is all going to be muscle memory because this is some mad lag. Uh-oh. Go! Uh-oh, can't kill anything. Everything's indestructible. No. No. Oh, shit. Well, I think it's working anyway. So what we need to do is, well, I say working, you can see the colour slightly off on composite, but the customer's having RGB, so this doesn't matter. Just we'll bear that in mind, that the colour's not quite right in case we have issues with the converter. I'm going to turn that off before I get attacked again. Right, so let's open this up and do some mods. We'll keep the power up there. We'll probably need him again to test. We will probably keep the composite plugged in and just move the wire out the way. For Retro Tink, absolutely no. Everybody seems to like Retro Tink. I own all of them, so I'm not like biased and just don't like them. I own every single Retro Tink they've ever made. Don't even use them. Zach used one last week again. We thought we'd give it another try. Very first thing we did, a Sega Saturn. Plugged the Sega Saturn into the Retro Tink 5X. Worked at first. Then we did a bit of work. Come back, like not on the console, just like carried on working. Come back to see if the console was working. It was just apparently off, nothing showed. Spent about 15 minutes diagnosing it, plugged it into my OSSC, into the Trinitron, all works perfectly fine. The Retro Tinks just don't work. Like if you're working on retro consoles, regular, like I am, then the Retro Tinks genuinely do not work like they just don't pick up most signals. So I've obviously worked with pretty much every retro console going in every region of the world from now, not far off. And I can tell you now the Retro Tinks don't work on, I'd say, 60% of them. So I think it's more of an American thing. I don't know whether they're American made or owned or something, or whether they just focus more on NTSC consoles. But I certainly know it doesn't work on PAL-based Sega Saturns stock. It will work, but not very often. And when it fails, it's not the console because it works on everything else. So basically, it's something I just don't recommend. What I use now is the OSSC for SCART, and save having the add-on composite for again composite HDMI. I just use the Retro Scaler 2X. That I'm finding for composite is actually better than the OSSC's add-on board. So Retro Scaler 2X for composite and OSSC for HDMI. I've used them. I've used the Retro Scaler for probably 6 months, but I've used the OSSC for 4 or 5 years. A lot of people will say, "Oh, what profiles do you use on the OSSC?" I use absolutely nothing. I just turn it on and it works flawlessly on every system. The main issue people have with the OSSC is part of why I do these CleanRGB mods. And that's because people don't do RGB right. They use different value resistors inside of the cables to adjust the voltage instead of correctly attenuating it and outputting 75 ohm. They use sync strippers on the sync signal instead of passing a proper sync. They basically hack together RGB mods and sell them, and that's what's currently popular on the market. And the OSSC doesn't like that, but then they blame it on the OSSC. Well, I CleanRGB mod everything, and I know how the RGB works. I spent a ton of time figuring it all out. Every console I've ever modded with CleanRGB just goes in the OSSC, turns on and works. No profiles, no mods, nothing fails, and I've done it on almost every console that can be RGB modded. So I don't think there's any issues with the OSSC in any way. I think the problem people have with OSSCs is poorly modded consoles, and then they just blame it on the receiver. And I think Retro Tink works more with those bad mods to tweak their inputs so it shows up as if it works. But if you put true RGB into the Retro Tink, like from a CleanRGB that's the exact voltage levels you need, it just fails most of the time. It just can't handle it. So I think the Retro Tink's probably more focused if you're going to use these off-the-shelf cables or these other mods. But if you're going to do proper RGB modding and pure input, stick with the OSSC. There's nothing wrong with them at all. No setup, no profiles. Just plug it in and it will work every time. And you'll see it on this one when we mod this. Hey, welcome in, Hugo. The chat for subs. There we go. So you can see this one. I presume this Goku is subbed on the channel. That's why the chat's showing up down the bottom. So I think my filter's working. And my messages should work as well because I'm classed as a broadcaster. So let me just see if mine show up. Yeah, so I think the filter now on chat's working. So only subscribers will show up on screen, and then I can make sure I prioritize them. My chair says Doom, but the camera's flipped. So this is my left hand. So when it's on the left side of my body, on screen, because I look at the screen to do work, it's on the left. So like your phone flips your camera around. If you looked in your phone at writing, it's going to be backwards. So I just flip the top camera so it's easier for me to like orient myself when I see the camera, basically. That's one coffee down. Oh, this is an interesting thing. So for those that remember when I was delidding the VDP on the Game Gear and I was trying to show you inside a chip, where are you? Look at this. Oh, I thought we got a delidded chip, like a prototype chip there. It's just caps on a floaty board. But from top down then, that looked like it was going to be like you can get the caps that are basically bond wired over and exposed, and I thought that was going to be that, but it's just a bunch of caps. I got excited then for showing you that. So yeah, I'm going to be working on Mega Drives quite a bit more at the minute as well. I'm going to be doing some mods on them, starting with things like the in-game resets, region switchless mods, an integrated CleanRGB. I don't know whether to do just one Mega mod because the Mega Drive seems quite popular. I'm probably going to start making the shells for them soon for the Mega Drive ones, aimed at mainly because, again, there's no cheap, and I say cheap not as in quality, as in price. There's no cheap shells for the Mega Drive one. They're like £110. So I'm planning on making them shells next. And then I figured I might as well give it some love and start making some mods. So I don't know whether to do like a holy grail of mod that does everything. So the RGB output, the audio amp, headphone amp for the ones, in-game resets, region switching, language switching. Do like, one mega mod. Won't cost that much. It'll be a Raspberry Pi on a board and some chips for the CleanRGB. I don't know whether just do like literally one mega mod, and if you don't want certain mods, you just disable switches or something like that. Or whether I do separate mods, it depends. I'll see. Neptune board, no. I saw the development of it, but no, I haven't bothered yet. I might do when I get more into Mega Drive. I might grab one and see. Yeah, I'm up a little bit early today, about an hour earlier than normal, but I'm wide awake, so figured I might as well start work. So what we have for the RGB mod is, do I even have it here? Sure, I grabbed one. No, I didn't. CleanRGB, got one here, luckily. And the the new factory didn't quite QC. I think they accidentally dragged a letter when they printed these bags. So I sent them the file, and then we've now got like 500 like this. So this is a lean RGB with a bit of C. So this one should work the same, but yeah, they must have just dragged the letter when they were about to print. So there's nothing wrong with the board, it's just the printer's pretty bad. So I think as well, part of why I'm probably going to make a easier mod than this, because we've got to solder now 4 wires, 8 wires, 9 wires on this. I want to make it so, this was the idea of why I made this in the first place, was I wanted to make one RGB board that could be used across every single console, so that when I come to do RGB mods, I don't have to keep designing mods for every console. And then once I find out which ones are popular, I'll make an easier to install mod without all these tuning dials and wires. But I just never got around to it, and we've sold now, I think this is the third batch, so this will be the 1001. Well, basically we've sold over 1,000 of them now. So it's long overdue that I actually make clean RGB mods that drop in, not just the universal, because I've just ended up using universal for everything. So the goal of while I'm installing this is I want to think through and figure out what I'm going to do. And I'm pretty sure what I'm going to do on this is, it's already got the port on here. which, to be honest, that customer's port, I think it's a bit high up. I can't quite focus on it for you. Yeah, that's too high up for the camera to focus on. Let me just try and get you a good shot of this. This port doesn't look in the best of conditions, so don't know if that's going to focus either. Yeah, that's done the job just about. So that port is a little bit, same issue with this camera, really focused. There we go. It's a little bit mangled. So I think I'll probably replace that port, but this does actually come with a port, so you don't need to replace the port on this. And if we look at the schematic I'm in together, let's see what I'm thinking, because my first thought is, if I remember rightly, you've obviously got the video chip here, and this goes straight to here through some caps. So I'm pretty sure the mod I can make will just remove this chip and solder in place of it. And that will be the simplest solution. So we'd solder a chip here, probably a flex ribbon that comes out and sits here or something. Or maybe comes down and out the way, whichever. I'll figure out where I want to put it. It's a flex ribbon, so it's going to sit anywhere. We'll probably remove these caps because the CleanRGB will filter that. Maybe I'll have a look. It all depends on which version. I can't remember off the top of my head what this one's doing, so we'll probe this with a scope in a minute and look at the schematic. This we can obviously fit on. I know it'll work anyway. We might just have to change some resistors. But the goal of this is to try and think through a new mod as we're doing this. So let me just pull up the schematic for the Mega Drive 2 and let's familiarise ourselves with it. Now the schematics for VA0, 1 and 3, this is a VA0, which you can tell from the bottom corner, VA0. But you can use the schematics for most of them, it doesn't matter too much, they're all pretty much the same. We are working on a Mega Drive 2, doing an RGB mod, but I'm also going to invent one as we're going. So I've got the universal mod I've made that works for every console. I've already installed them on Mega Drives, but this is quite large and needs 9 wires. So this takes time to install. I want to make one that's going to drop in over this chip. So we're just going to look at the schematics together, and I'll guide you through this. If you want to start seeing these as well, these kind of talking you through how to make mods, I'm going to start doing subscriber only streams specifically. So that's what the sub goal is at the top. I'm going to start teaching you how to, do soldering hardware mods. It's something people have asked for a while. So I'll start doing that once we get some. Well, to be honest, we've already got enough subs, so I'll probably start doing them in a week or so. Right, so move this slightly out of the way. There we go. So this is the schematic. This is just paper schematic. So these are scanned in from the originals. And we are looking for, there we go, this will be the chip. So we have the MB3514 or the CXA1145. In this case, it's the MB. They obviously do very similar things. So there might be variants in the voltage levels or filtering, so we'd have to confirm that when I make a mod. But you can see basically the RGB comes from, it gets pulled up to the 5-volt rail through these pull-up resistors. The signals come from, obviously, the only real chip on this board. So if we looked at the board, this is why it's so simple, really. You have a 68K up here, coprocessor for, I believe that's for playing Master System games or audio. I can't remember off the top of my head what that one does. But that's just basically a normal processor. And then you've got the single custom ASIC in terms of this Mega Drive 2. So this basically has to do almost everything. So this will be generating the RGB signals, pretty sure, and that will go straight up to here. So there's not much in between them two. That goes up. The RGB signals are pulled up, and then there's the resistors we've seen, which are these ones here. So R62, for example, a 4.7K and a 50. R58 is a 1.2K pulling to ground. So they're basically voltage dividing the RGB. So there's RGB coming out of presumably that ASIC, then gets voltage divided at this point. So when it goes into here, it's slightly lower. So we could tap off it on the inputs, which makes sense because we're going to remove the chip. So we want to tap off it on pin 2, 3, 4, and 10 for the sync input. So that's simple of where we pull it in. We could tweak these resistors if we wanted to, or we could just remove these resistors to get full voltage. It all depends on what voltage level we see and what we want. And then the output goes directly to the port with no capacitors apparently, which is perfect for us because our CleanRGB doesn't need it. And the sync in also goes straight to the port. So the only problem with sync is if we want to pass it through a CleanRGB, which might help, we'd have to cut a trace. There's nothing between C-Sync and this chip. So removing this chip won't change sync. So that's something to bear in mind. We might want to remove and disconnect the C-Sync wire if we see dirty signals, because if the sync isn't attenuated right or cleaned, you could get a bit of noise on the video signal. So it's pretty simple. Pin 2, 3, and 4 are the inputs. Pin 21, 2, and 3 are the outputs, and we're going to leave sync for now. Audio already goes to there as well, so it's a pretty simple mod. We shouldn't have any issues here. The main thing is looking at the voltage and making sure we know what to do. I've seen the retro channel composite mod. It's definitely, unfortunately, taken 99% of what the Atari 2600 clean comp is and just slightly tweaked it and sold it for itself. So I've already lowered the price, so ours is now cheaper. But yeah, you get people doing that all the time. You can't stop people making mods. Like, there's people that made RGB mods for this before me. But it's just a shame that they've basically ripped off the clean comp in terms of the exact shape, the layout, the install guide, the notes about removing resistors, how to identify ground pin. Like, I watched the video and I was almost giggling that I'm like, Jesus, have you done any work yourself? You've basically ripped off my entire guide, the PCB layout, the solder pad positions, all the hints and tips of how I've improved the Atari over the time. And then just, you've changed the design of the video processing signal, but that's one part of 8 other parts of the entire mod. You could have made your own, put it somewhere else and designed it yourself, but no, that is 100% inspired by my design for sure. But like I say, ours is now the cheapest one anyway. So not too fussed. It happens all the time. I always get my stuff ripped off. So the only decision here then, we need to go on pin 2, 3, and 4. And I think I even have on the wiki the guide for the CXA1145. Yeah, I've got it buried in a section on the wiki at the top that's just literally CXA 2075 upgrade, but with CXA1145. So in here, we can see the pin out for the CXA1145, which is the same chip as this MB. So we know here pin 2, 3, and 4 we can see easily. Pin 5, like the other side, rather straight through, is the output. So we can just look at this chip and know that quite simply, just by looking at this, we can say RGB and then the output RGB. So that's simple. The customer doesn't mention they want to keep composite on this, so I'm going to presume they don't. We could, if they want to keep composite, keep this on. All we'd have to do is lift or cut these 3 traces here. So all you'd have to do is literally blow out these 3 traces. So I might, just because they might want composite, let's just cut through them traces. We could also lift these pins. So in fact, let's do a non-destructive pin lift instead. But that does make me think about if I'm going to do the mod. I was originally just going to remove this. If we remove that, I'd have to integrate composite in as well. So yeah, I'll think about that. Let's get started on this mod first and we'll think that through. But I've obviously done the clean comp, so I can remake composite as well. So if we did a clean RGB board, I'd still like to just remove this chip for simplicity, and then we might integrate a composite. Oh no, it's not generating composite at all. No, I think, I think we'd recommend that the solder to these pads here and either cut them traces or lift this out and bend the pins like we're doing. I think that's what we'll do, and then we're not removing composite for no reason. Where's that window gone? There. Brought your Game Gear kits from my Game Gears, thank you. Hope you're liking them. We'll have probably a new limited edition shell soon as well. The Sapphires, they went absolutely mental in the first 2 weeks, and I thought we were going to run out within a month, and then they've like tapered off a bit now, but we don't have many Sapphires left at all. And then that'll be it. The clear blue will be gone for the foreseeable future, if not for good, and we'll do another limited run probably. So that's that chip off. We're going to put him back on, but I'm just removing this for simplicity for bending them pins. So I'll just place him on here for now. And zoom in. So we had pin 1, which was over here. So we want to bend up the R, G, and B outputs of this chip. I'm just going to let it cool a minute so I don't burn my fingers off. And I think that's all we need to do. Once them pins are bent up, we can solder the wires to the CleanRGB. So we'll have to find a spot for that. And then before we do that as well, I will remove this socket. Now I'm tempted to just hot air that and clear that off. Yeah, so let's move him out of the way a minute actually. While we're here, I'm just going to hot air this AV port off and put a new one on because it looks fairly damaged, as we saw. You know, it's seen better days. I might as well chuck a new one on. We have them here. I think we sell them. So why not just put a fresh one on for the customer so it's nice and new. So we've got a nice brand new one here. And obviously the customer's is much worse off if you compare this to ours. So can I get that on this one? And you can see the difference it's going to make. So we should be able to. That'll focus. I think this is just on the limits of the camera's focal distance. There we go. So look at the difference between like the old one and the new one. That's going to make a big difference. It looks terrible. So we'll take off the existing one and chuck this one on. For this, it should survive the just basically hot air as hot as you can go. Morning, welcome in. If you're wondering why the chat doesn't appear for you anymore, by the way, I can see you guys can't. If you subscribe to the channel on Twitch or YouTube, then your chats appear on stream, so they don't get missed, and I'll answer them quicker. I'll still answer people's chat, obviously, but I'll start kind of getting on with work, answering only the sub chat, and having a dedicated time where I then answer all the other chat. But if you want kind of priority chat, then you can just sub to the channel, and it'll also help as well. So I'm just going on this now with literally 500-degree air and 100%, 120% airspeed. So as hot as the hot air goes. And this is just to get the solder to melt as quick as possible without spreading the heat to like the DC jack and stuff. And this should come off, basically just fall out. And I probably could have put some leaded solder on to help this, but it won't survive the 500-degree heat anyway. The solder's going to melt no matter what. So there we go, that's started to come loose. There's just the ground connection at the front surviving at the minute. And I think that's more of the fact these have got like spring-loaded clips in. I don't think it's the solder that hasn't melted. It's just you'll see when this is out, it's got like spring clips in, so you have to partially force this through the hole. Yep. While this is toasty, I'm just going to desolder pump this. Must have to bear with me. I'm not going to change camera for the sake of 2 seconds of. Well, I can probably, while it's this hot, use desolder wick just to clean these holes out a minute. So we nearly got them all with the desolder wick. Just 2 left for now, desolder pumping. There we go. There's my sponge gone there. And then if we now look at the board and the port, you'll see hopefully some work you approve of. So there's the port, all removed, no damage to traces, nice and clean. The other side we haven't actually cleaned yet, which is here, but you can see clean and no damage. And then the original port from a customer is here, and this is why you have to pull. See these tabs here? This one's got a spring on, so you have to kind of force it through, basically. This new one doesn't have a spring, it just slides through like a normal port would, but this is why this one had to be pulled. But you can see the quality difference there. The new one's going to be nice and clean and has proper round pins. This one had square, but these fit the cables, you know, nicely. So we'll get that one out of the way. There's nothing we have to mod, we're just going to put this back over the board and into the pins. Yep, nice, perfect fit. So that's a snug fit. Oh, I didn't show you that on camera, but that's a really nice snug fit. So that's just gone in perfect. It's even got like a bit of a pressure push, so that's gone in exactly as we want it. Nice and flat, just like the original. Now we just need to solder that down. So I'll focus him and get some flux on there. Hey, thank you on Twitch for jumping over from TikTok. Yeah, TikTok's been a bit of a bitch. Keeps banning me most streams. And to be honest, I've only just noticed that Twitch has grown massive. I had like five followers, are they called, on Twitch. I don't even use it that much. And we've got like 150 now. I haven't even been paying attention. So I've enabled like the same kind of subsystem on Twitch as YouTube. And then when I do subscriber-only streams, they're going to be on Twitch and YouTube at the same time, basically. So, yeah, thanks for jumping over to that one. So we'll get these anchor pads on first. Yeah, thanks for jumping over as well from TikTok to YouTube. It'll definitely help us. I think the streams are going to do better in the long term on YouTube and Twitch, to be honest. So that's where I'd focus if I were you. That's where I'd kind of start watching from. It's going to help the streams more and the channel in general more. The TikTok I might just do the conventional videos I used to do, the pre-recorded ones. People loved it. So we might end up changing to that. I'll all see at the minute we stream everywhere, but it's finding out what works best for everyone. But yeah, definitely if you could support the YouTube and Twitch side, that would be really good. Much appreciated. Right, so there's a new port. Still looks a little bit. I've got a little bit of gunk. Oh, there we go. Thank you very much. See, we pop up as well now as a member at the bottom. And you should, I don't know how quick it'll let you then, but your chats should appear then on screen. It's all, as soon as YouTube or Twitch tell you that you're a member, it should in theory come through as a message. And then I've wrote a bit of code because, of course, Streamlabs doesn't support showing only subscriber chat. So I had to write a bit of code that injects some JavaScript into this stream. So every time a message comes through, it's hidden by default. That's why you'll hear the noise. If you hear a ping, it's people talking, but you guys won't see the chat other than me. But then if it comes through from a subscriber, my code injects something that shows the chat. So helps being a software developer as well, really. On a subwoofer or potentiometer, normally they will be, the most common is 10K, but ideally I'd look for either schematics or another pot on the board that's similar, or have a look in another instance at where the pot goes to, what it connects to, and then find the data sheets of the things it connects to. It can either just be a voltage divider, that's the value doesn't matter, and it's just basically dividing, say, a 5-volt input from 0 to 5, or it could be part of a pass-through circuit. On a subwoofer with the load, it's almost always just a voltage divider, so it's not actually going to be passing the values through. But if it's part of an op-amp feedback circuit, then it will. So I'd try to find schematics. I'd try to measure it, if not, the outer 2 pins to see if you get a known resistance, because the wiper's probably broken, but the outside 2 pins should give you a fixed resistance, and that'll probably be the one that you need, basically. Yorkshire or Leeds? No, I'm a Stokey, so Stoke-on-Trent. That's basically below Manchester, above Birmingham, is how I always used to explain it to the Americans when I worked over there. Everyone knows Birmingham, everyone knows Manchester. We're right in between the two, is basically what I tell everyone. And the missus is not technically Geordie, but all the family are Geordie. But she was born down here, so the family had already moved when she was born. So some of the things I'll say you might wonder as a Stokey what the hell it means. And it'll be some Geordie phrases that I've just picked up with the wife and don't even realise they're not Stokey phrases. Right, so we have the, this is the RGB chip, the built-in one. So we got the red, green and blue coming in here, and we got the red, green and blue coming out. We want to preserve composite, so what we've done is we've lifted this off the board from here, right by the AEV port, and we're just going to bend these 3 pins up. Instead of cutting these 3 traces here non-destructively, we're going to bend these pins up. So we'll just tilt it up, get the tweezers, and gently do that. So all I'm really doing is pinching the tweezers. These are super soft legs, and that's completely non-destructive. We're not trying to poke and bend, and now we can solder that back down. Just a nicer way of doing it, I think. And then if the customer ever wanted to revert this mod, there's nothing stopping them. They don't even need special tools. They could just push them pins down and solder them back on. Turn this heat way down now. We're back up to 480 and 80. There we go. Practicing micro soldering. To be honest, if you just sub to the channel, I know I'm forcing the subs there, but I'm going to be doing subscriber only streams, literally dedicated to that, teaching you how to do all this, how to solder, what tools you need, what wire to use, how to read schematics. That's the whole point of why I've started this sub thing. It's not just like, give me money. It's literally, once we get the subs up, I'll be doing subscriber only streams dedicated purely to doing this, basically. Where in the States was I? I was originally in Duluth. And then, like, as in, I had a business partner over there, so we operated and they lived in Duluth, and then we moved to Superior. And the funny thing was, I don't know if I've said it on stream before, but I'm absolutely terrible with geography and dates. So when I was first going over there, I was flying into Duluth on the little shitty Cessnas, like you have to take a mini flight after over into Duluth. I'm sure you probably know of it. And when the business partner moved to Superior in Wisconsin, I went into flying, obviously, on my own, younger than I am now, flying first class. Already went to Amsterdam as a drop over, not to get weed or anything, I don't smoke. It was just literally a cheaper flight. So if you go from Manchester to Amsterdam on a quick flight and then from Amsterdam straight over, it's cheaper. So young lad, flying first class, big spiky blonde hair, always get pulled up by security, every time, 100% of the time get pulled up. Ask me where I'm going. Well, I don't plan ahead. I literally plan the day. So I wake up, I've got Fly America, where am I off? I'm going over to the business partner, get to the airport security. Where are you going? Duluth Superior. Which one? What do you mean, which one? I thought they were the same. It's because we were in Duluth and we moved to Superior. And that's how much attention I paid to where we were going. So that was it. They were super suspicious, took me in a room. And then I got to know I knew the investigator there, because that's how many times I got pulled over. He never remembered me, but I used to go in and go, "Oh, hey up, Jeff." Can't remember what his name was, but I'd be like, "Hey up, Jeff." He's like, "Do I know you?" I'm like, "Yeah, you pull me up like every 3 months. We're in this room every 3 months." And he had no memory of me, but I could literally remember all the staff there, all the investigators. It's crazy. And I still get pulled to this day when I'm flying anywhere now, especially to America. I'll get pulled up for it. I'm always just getting bag searched and everything. They just don't like me. Right then, so next question is, where do we put this? Because it's a big board. So we don't really want to run the wires. We don't want it all the way down here if we can help it, and running wires all the way up. We could do with it being up here. So I'm thinking, like, here's a nice place. And we've got double-sided tape on the back to stick to these. So I could, like, stick it there. So let's dry fit it there. And let's go over here. And we just want to make sure that this is not going to get in the way. We zoom out. It's not going to hit anything when we're closed up. So we put that in there. And then we put the cage on, because the cage sometimes hits things. Yeah, so straight away there, that's just lifted off. The cage just twanged that off. So we can't quite put it. Why can't we put it there, actually? Can we just bend it? I think it's just that. So we could modify this part of the cage and just bend that out of the way. And then still put it there. Or, if not, does it leave us anywhere else to go with that? Could we fit it over there, slightly further over? Like, not as neat looking, but diagonal. So you could fit in there. But anyone with OCD, that's going to kill. So would you prefer it to be installed like that, or we could install it over here and bend the cage up? We can't really install it on the bottom because there's a metal cage touching. We could take this cap off and use a ceramic there to put this flat, which is probably what we'll do, I think. So obviously you can. This is going to be designed to work like be a drop-in mod. So this is something that's more of a, you'll only have to do this because it's the universal mod. So let's take this cap off, I think. Oh, we got another member. Thank you very much. And then, like I say, see how long it takes until if your chat messages then appear, because they should appear fairly instant once you remember on the overlay, and I'll notice them more then. And what do you guys prefer in terms of YouTube and Twitch? Like, what's your preferred kind of platform? because they seem to be the two main ones for streaming, really. But I had nobody on Twitch when I started streaming probably a month ago. Never paid any attention because the views are, you know, are low basically on Twitch. And then when I looked the other day, I've actually got, like I say, 150 people on there now. So I've realised I should maybe start focusing on it, because it does seem like a really good platform for the streaming. But I know people a lot of people I see seem to stream on one or the other, or focus on one and then post highlights on the other. I don't see many streaming on both. They seem to have like a preference. So I don't know why I'm clearing these holes. We're not going to replace it with another aluminium. So that was just literally autopilot there, clearing the hole out ready for a cap, and we don't need to, because it's going to be a ceramic cap there. That's just a bulk capacitor. So let's clean the flux off first though. Yeah, YouTube over Switch, YouTube over Twitch for one win there. Now, this is just a 10 microfarad cap, so we will replace that with up here now, 10 microfarad, and you can go higher on this as well. I'm going to put a 22 on. It's just a bulk cap for this 68K processor, so the 10 isn't important here. There we go. The cage hasn't been trimmed now. This is just a stock cage at the minute, and that's how we want to keep it. So when I make the more integrated mod, we also don't have to tell the customers to permanently modify stuff. There we go. Now it's, see, so when you remember, you get this little pop-up now on screen, so I can answer them more priority. When we start getting more and more messages, then like the stream yesterday, we had hundreds of chat, and I spent so much time just talking, whereas now we've got the sub-only chat, I can answer the sub-chats as we go, and then we'll take like little pause breaks to answer everybody else's questions. So but that looks like that code's working perfect, and then it stays on screen for a minute. The chats, I'll probably get it stay on for a little bit longer, but I think that's the maximum it lets it stay on anyway. It's also good because if the subs are answering questions from other people, everybody sees the answer as well, so it's quite cool. Works in my favour as well. I don't have to answer as many questions. Right, so that's that cap on. Just clean that little bit of flux. Light's getting in my way today. I think that's actually the record number of people on Twitch as well we normally get like 2 or 3, so it seems to be ramping up nicely. The sub count doesn't look like it updates super often either. I think you have to wait a day for the sub counts to update. It's like a slow thing. You evaluate it at the end of each day. But I think we've already had like 2 or 3 people sub today, which is awesome. Right, that's that one there. So now, with that little mod, I can fit it here nicely. And we want to do another dry fit test to make sure we get the position right. So I'm going to stick it, say, touching. Oh, a bit too zoomed in for you guys there. I'm going to push it over to hit this, so I've got a kind of reference point. Say potentially there, maybe to the bottom of that black there, just so it's got some kind of positional accuracy. And then we're going to put the cage over and see if anything hits. No, perfect. And you can see in there, probably if I go to the side angle, you can see the mod nicely sits there as well. So again, I'm going to be making an integrated mod for this, but you can see It sits nicely in there, and then when you take this off, it's under there. So nothing is going to hit here. So we're safe to stick it down there. Do I ever sleep? Yeah, I do. I am admittedly up early today. I say every day I'm not. Today, yes. What time are we on? About 20. Is that it? 20 past 5? Oh, yeah, shit. I'm up early. I've already been up an hour and a half. Yeah. Got up a little bit early today. I don't look at the clock. I just wake up, and if I've woke up, I just get showered and come work. I thought it was like 4:30 when I come down, but I think it was 3:30, 4. But yeah, if I'm awake and I'm alert, I just start working. It's free time at the end of the day. More time to spend getting stuff done. I feel good about it when you've got some work done. I personally enjoy it. I love the working, especially the early mornings. It's addictive. Now I've started streaming early. It's like, I love it. Oh yeah, and we've got the time change as well, haven't we? So aren't I going to be up even earlier? Am I going to be on stream at 2 a.m. soon? Because the clocks, again, another thing I'm terrible at, times when they change dates, events. So in terms of clock changing, the missus told me the other day it happens, but I think it goes the other way. I think it goes backwards, does it? She said. So that means if I'm up at, say, 5 now, it would be 4 once it's back. So that means if I get up at 4, we're going to be on stream at 3 at this rate. Yeah, you'll have to be a sub for your chat to show up on stream, but I see all your chats. I'm not going to ignore you just because you're not a sub. It's just that as chats fly in, if I'm busy working, I'm not going to answer chats. I'll just look at the screen. But if a subscriber pops up on screen, I will answer that because obviously courtesy, the fact that you're supporting the channel. But if you want your chats to appear live on screen, then you can sub on any of them. You can go as like a $1.99 fan on YouTube. I think it's like the cheapest. I don't know what Twitch is because they set their own pricing. But yeah, you can sub anywhere and then your chat should appear basically. But you're not gonna, I'm not gonna not answer you just because you haven't, paid something basically. All right, so now the way the CleanRGB Universal works is we wire in red, green, and blue. We can use sync, but we're going to bypass it because it already goes to the port. We're going to see if it's good enough. So the RGB will be the inputs on this side, and then the outputs will send to, we can send to the pads on the bottom, or you can send them to these vias. If you're comfortable soldering to these pads like I am, I'm just going to go to the pads underneath the pins, and then we have to tune it all. So I think because, yeah, the way I'm going to do this mod, yeah, we'll just go straight to that. That's what I'm going to do. So this will just be a bunch of wiring now. So feel free to chat away because this is just going to be probably 15 minutes of soldering wires on. There's nothing technically challenging here. I'm just going to be doing some nice wire work. We'll make this nice and clean as well. I can take it out of the cage. We don't need the plastic cage in the way. And then we'll solder some enameled wire on. I'll tell you what, shall I also try, one of the viewers on here has got this exact same iron. So my newly purchased uber cheap soldering iron here, which to be honest is working good. But they have said check the other tips work. So we've got tips on here, 3 different size handles that have smaller and smaller tips. They've said do actually check that the other handles work. I just put them away because they've brought the exact one and one of the handles didn't work and they struggled to get it replaced. So even though I rarely use the other handles, in fact I probably never do, let's just check that the other handles do work. Where have I put them is the question? Down here. So I'll just grab this out. Oh yeah, I wash them as well, literally. I put them in the dishwasher still. Cleans them perfect. I've got all, again, people will say if I do something like use the hot air and a desolder pump, they'll tell me I need an expensive desolder gun, not realising I've actually got them. And then if they see me washing the boards in the dishwasher, they'll say, oh, you need an electronic ultrasonic cleaner. I'm like, I've got it. I've got all the expensive tools. Trust me, I've got everything you could possibly need in this industry. But it's funny how many things go back to the simple methods, and the cheap tools work just as well in most instances. So you can't beat a dishwasher. It's better than an ultrasonic cleaner, hands down. Right, so we have on here, you can see, let's get this out. And I think we're on the right one, be able to show you this. Actually, I can probably do this maybe. Depends if the camera can focus that high, because that's the only thing with this overhead camera. It can't go high. Yeah, so that's the only downside to this overhead. It's really a zoomy lens to do overheads. But we've got 3 tips. If I put them in order like this, and then get this camera, which is a bit better for the zoomy zoom stuff, you can see we've got 3 different tips there. So you can see in the holes, you've got the smallest. This is a C210. This is a this is a C115. This is a C210. This is a C245. So the one I've got plugged in at the minute is the smallest. So this is the C115, I believe it is. So in that case, if that's the one, we want to find the tips out of here, which they'll be in a tiny tub as well, because the smallest one has micro tips. So I could have a go at soldering with them. I don't need or use the super small one. So you can see we've got on the tips, move this up out of the way a minute, focus down to there, zoom out a little bit. So we've got the C210s, the C245s. So I use the C245s, and we should have small ones are in tiny tubs. So like here, this is the C115s. Most people think when they're doing soldering like this, oh, you need these tips. And these are, baby spade. I might try them. That's cool. Where's my full-size spade? Is it still warm? No. So this isn't a medium. This is a medium tip, but we've got baby tip. That's quite cool. But the problem you'll find with these is, I've tried them, you don't get enough heat. So it struggles, like you're there forever on pads to get them to flow, especially if you're then trying to do anything on thick pads. They're good for really tiny work, but I can do the really tiny work with the massive tip, so I don't have much use for the smaller ones. So what do we have? We have a pin tip there, and we have a bent tip. So this is probably one of my favourites when I used to use anything but a tip. This is just a little bent tip. But I'm not going to use that one. I'm going to use the baby spade. Gives it a better hope of working as well, because it's actually the biggest tip I've got with the C210. So let's give this baby one a go. See how it performs. If I didn't make an absolute mess of my desk. And then because we're going to check the C210, let's find a C210 tip as well, similar. So not him, he's 245, 245, 245, 210. There we go. So we've got this tip as well on the medium. So I'm just going to keep the test the same, just use a different size spade. So we've got baby spade, slightly bigger spade, and to be honest, the tip looks almost identical there. And then the spade I'm using, which is just the medium one for the one I'm using. There's an even thicker one, which is this one. So you can see on the bigger one, you can go from small to large, whereas on the little ones, these are the biggest tips you can actually get. So we'll go with the biggest tips, because I know the biggest problem with the smaller tips is simply heat transfer. You can't get enough heat through. So we'll keep that one plastic tub, keep that one plastic tub. Put all these away. So I've got some desk space again. And this one is the smallest one we'll start with. And we'll attempt to attach these wires, I guess. So we'll put this baby tip in. The handle's nice. It'd be nice if it worked, because the smaller tip is more helpful. But I just know this doesn't typically work. Like, you just don't get enough heat transfer. So there's that. Dishwasher won't corrode the PCB. No, you just put it in the dishwasher, wash it literally with everything like you normally would, detergent and everything. The hot water and the detergent get that hot, it just basically melts all the grime, gets rid of it all. Once it's out the dishwasher, the dishwasher sprays clean water after, so it's basically almost contaminant free. Otherwise, all your dishes would taste of soap. So that's why you kind of know it's working. Something's falling down. And then once it's out of the dishwasher, I normally spray the board with IPA and give it a rub down. That removes any further or final contaminants, but no, you won't get any issue. They come out spotless and non-contaminated and dry, basically, because they're that hot, they steam dry themselves. Yeah, I use the kitchen dishwasher, much to the missus's not delight. Right, so this is turning on. You can see a new tip as well. It'll smoke as it burns off the initial coating over the tip, so you can't really see any smoke on that at the minute, but trust me, there's a little bit of smoke coming off that. That's the same for all new tips. And the first thing we want to do is tin. That's actually hard to see with that in the way. And now I've seen a dirty desk, I've got to clean that. If my actual IPA dispenser would work. This is the second or third one I've got. How can you not even work upside down? How can you resist gravity? Stupid desolder pump. All right then. So we want to tin the tip like that. And then the first thing I want to do is strip the wire. Wow, the stream delay's a bit bad today. And you see that's not really stripped it. So that's the other thing, I strip wire a lot with this, and having a ball of solder on the end to be able to strip is kind of important. So that's managing, but that's something that if I was going to use this tip, I'd have to get used to. So it's just about done it. Now let's try soldering onto this pad. So let's treat it like it's the normal iron. Because I'm left-handed, I'm going to go on the blue first, the furthest one to the right. And then I will tack the wire onto the pad. Well, I'd probably apply some, well, I can't get used to this iron being so small because the handle's also small. 1, 2, 3. So this pad here, I've already got solder on. So that's, yeah, I think that's tin in the pad. Yeah, I can definitely tell there's less heat. Just difference in flow. That's how used to the iron I've got I am. So 1, 2, 3. Tack onto there. I think that's on. Just seems, I don't know. I think I'm not used to a certain size iron and how fast things flow. This is a bit confusing. I don't know what's confusing me though. I can't tell you. It's actually, let me just zoom in more maybe. Maybe it's like my eyes. Oh, that's nice so I can see. Let's take the wire off again. So I've got a bridge. Get the bridge off. Plonk the wire down, tack on. So it's working perfectly fine, but it's just confusing me. I don't know why. I can't get used to the, I don't know, I can't explain it. There's something about it. The handle's a lot shorter. So I've got a stumpy handle like this versus this handle that I'm used to. And that's making a difference because I can barely fit me. Like I'm on the edge there. I wouldn't normally hold it here and then I haven't got any padding here, so the feel of it's thrown me off a little bit. Versus when I hold this, I've got full, I've got foam on my hand. It just feels more like it should. Plus, then the, I think is that the normal one or the massive one? I think I've put the wrong one back over there. Yeah, I have. If I put this back in the iron I've usually use, if I hold this. You can see like the tips there, whereas if I hold this, the tip's there. So it's like my working distance is, I think, more the problem. I think that's what's thrown me off. My hand is nicely out of the way using this one. When I use the micro one, I feel like my hand's hitting these caps and this connector, and I'm like having to, this one I can hold here, nice all the way up. So if I show you, I think that's what it is. I think it's the working distance issue, which is big because you need it to be basically something you're comfortable soldering with. I'm spending more time thinking about why it doesn't feel right than soldering. That was like genuinely hard to do that wire just because my brain didn't want to work. So yeah, so see here, I'm trying to get in and I'm already hitting, that's what it is. I'm hitting all this lot. Whereas with this tip, you can literally hold it up here and get to it. You know, so that's a big issue, the throw of the handle. So I think the little one is out. I can't get used to that, and I don't really need to. We'll try the next one down, but this is where then, when you get to the next one down, I don't tend to find there's much difference or point in going to the smaller one versus the larger one at that point, but let's give it a try. This tip I'll get out with these, so just grip and pull. I don't trust the built-in tip remover in the iron stand. I normally bend the tips when I do that. And then if we put this back in, this should be cool enough. I presume you're joking there, Shane, as well. They're like two of the worst solderers on on the planet. Right, so that one's back away. We won't use that. So now we will try this tip. And by the way, I'm just demoing the tips here, just because one of the guys on this channel has also brought this exact soldering iron, and he's just wanting to make sure all the tips work because one of his didn't, like all the handles work. But I wouldn't typically use these handles anyway. I'd stick with the large one. So we know the smallest one works. Let's just cut this wire off so we don't accidentally tug anything. That can go away. So now the medium one is this one. Let's try the medium one, make sure this works. And I don't think there's going to be that much difference in this. I could probably use the medium one, but unless I really see a point in having the smaller tip, if it helps at all, which I doubt it will because I'm that used to the larger tips, I can do all the work with them, then I'll probably just test this works and go back to what we were doing. So same again, we'll do another wire on here, get a feel for if there's any downsides to this size tip. So we'll zoom back in, we'll do the next wire next to it. So first thing we want to do is tin this tip, because it's a nice new one. Put solder on, get the enameled wire. So that's now easier to strip. That strips just the same as the larger iron, so that was no problem. For the pads on here, we've moved this wire out of the way. Lob it in there. And then what we can do is, we shouldn't need to pre-tin this, we've already taken this off and soldered it on, but we'll do that anyway, just because we did on the other one. And then we will go down with this just the same. So I'll zoom in super close for you as well, so we can kind of see the same perspective as the other one. And we want to, the main thing with tacking these wires on is it's a lot easier than it looks. You just basically lie flat by it, and so long as it's pre-stripped and pre-tinned, your iron doesn't need to be super accurate. You just need to tack on the top of it, and surface tension and basically surface tension is what does the work. So obviously no depth perception there, that mustn't be flat on the board. And the stream delay makes this fun. But yeah, this one isn't, don't know, this iron is not packing as much heat. That takes way longer to reflow, but that could be the whole depth perception on the stream. I can't really see the depth of where the wire's at while looking at the stream. So let's just do it from this angle instead, and what I'll do is I'll use my eyes instead of the stream, and then we'll see if it's just as easy when I can actually see where the wire is. So I can't see the stream, I'll just do it by eye, and then you guys can tell me if it goes on nice and easy. So that's held now in the right position. You just warm up the pad and let go. So yeah, that's, I think, to be honest, the little tip was easier than the medium tip, but the medium tip is worse than the large tip. I feel like this medium tip is, I don't know, that just doesn't feel like it's flowing much heat. You can still see the wire hasn't flown in. This is flown in nice. So the medium one works, but I'm just going to go back to the normal one. So the good thing is the kit that's come, everything works with it. So there's no issues with the tips that have come with it. That was the main test there. But I'll just go back to my good old faithful giant tip, and then we'll do all the rest of the work, basically. So we'll get, where is, the tip's already in that one, so this can go back in. And then you'll see the difference with the large tip now. I'll just reflow that exact pin using the large iron, and you'll see how easy that flows in, like you should do, I presume. So that's up to temp. I've got my giant, zoom out a little bit. Got the giant tip back on now, the one we use. And if I just take this back off, so that's back off, and we'll solder it back on just the same way. And yeah, that's gone on much easier. So yeah, I think the medium one probably did the same job. I think that's just a visual of that wire there. So all the tips work. There's no real difference in terms of doing this part of the job, just tacking the wires on. But I do think the working distance of the short iron was your big problem. So having that short iron, you could see we were hitting like this heatsink and stuff. So that's the main reason I wouldn't use the little one. Not so much, well, you'll get issues with the heat, as we mentioned. You'll have issues getting the things like the capacitor pads cleared, say. The small tips are going to struggle with stuff like that. So I wouldn't recommend anyone use the 115, but the 210 might be a more favourite one for you guys if you wanted to use smaller tips just for how you work, if you want to work with getting in between pins or single pin soldering, whereas I don't typically do that. I won't do like single pin soldering. I'll do drag soldering or hot air. So touching on single pins is not that important for what I do. I don't need to touch single pins normally. This is about the only time you'd touch single pins, and it's perfectly fine using a big tip for that. You can just press over multiple pins at the same time. So you can see how much better the big tip solders. It's like reflowed everything. And if you wanted to redo these, what you can do is, say you wanted these to look super clean, which some people do. I'm not fussed about like I've said before, the overall visual being super clean so long as the joints are solid. But if you wanted to get these super clean and bubbly looking, you can drag these wires to somewhere, say here. We can tack on, if we just dry them with hot air, you can tack them on with a bit of UV resin so they don't move, and then they're in a set position. And then you can, have we got any UV resin lying around still? I've got some green stuff. Have I got the other stuff? Yeah, I've got some here, so give you a quick demo, I guess. Get that, cotton wool board, UV light. So we're going to tack these wires in, which we'd probably be doing anyway, because we like to make it all neat. But I'll just show you kind of reflowing the... I'll say we'll show you that. I don't know if I've got any. There we go. Yeah, I've still got a bit. So this is just some clear, quick set UV resin. If we go over these components, you can easily click this off. It's not permanent, so it doesn't matter where you put this. UV light will cure this. And then these wires basically are kind of fixed in a position. There we go. So now those wires are effectively going to stay, for the most part, where they are. So now when we reflow, we don't have to worry about holding them pads in, so you can focus more on reflowing them as if they should be there. So you'll see what happens in a second. Let me just pack this other soldering iron tip out of the way. Move this wire, or cut this wire because it's no long enough. Just clean my desk up a minute. I've got quite a bit of stuff all over the desk. Screwdriver out the way, that out the way, cutters out the way, drink out the way. Right, so they're now in place. So you can see if I grab these wires, if you pull hard, you're going to snag them off, but they're basically set in place now. So that means you can focus on these pins. And again, like I say, I wouldn't do this normally. These are perfectly fine solder. When you zoom super close, you can see like, oh, that wire's slightly to the left. This one's slightly diagonal. That one's pretty much bang on. They work. I'm not one that is scared of criticism or people saying the bad joints. I'd happily leave these. But if you wanted to reflow them and make them look super neat, now the wires are tacked in place, you can pretty much just go back over with your iron and the wires shouldn't move. So you can just reflow the pads now without worry, and you can push down a bit and then you can grab your tweezers if you want. So see how that one's moved. It won't move much because the UV cure holds it in here. So you can move this around and, you know, reposition these wires as you want, and you can get them. So see there, that's nicely over. This one then, you could do the same. You could do that. You could also blob a bit of extra soldering to get a nice ball on that connection. So if we went on with some fresh solder on there, you can see you can get like nicer finishes on the legs. And I think the pad underneath this, basically the footprint underneath, is what wants tinning on that one. And this one I think's moved too far out the way, this wire. So I think that's why that one's the one that did look nice. It's kind of the physical wire, it needs moving back into position. So you'd want to take it off, bend it back down, get it in like a nice position and tack it in. And just bear in mind, again, I'm doing this on a delayed stream, so without a microscope. If you were going to try and perfect these little pads, you'd want to use a microscope and no delay to get them nice. But that's all there is to it really on the pads. You can, I don't know if they even look any cleaner really, but there's like, you know, reflowing the pads on. You could just mess with them all day, but at the end of the day, they're no different than the original solder pads, so long as you don't have dry joints. The visual of tacking it on quickly like that versus playing about with it and getting it looking nice and round doesn't matter, basically. And we've even got this chip slightly slanted, to be honest, on the hot air reflow. So let's just reflow them, looking at it super close. The pads are slightly twisted on there. You see they're like slightly out, but that, again, this has all got connection and every pin's solid. So it's stuff like that where I wouldn't waste my time, if you know what I mean. It's like, as long as you know your soldering is solid and, you know, the wires aren't loose, you don't want to be charging the customer to make it look pretty. You want it to be pretty enough that it doesn't look atrocious, but you don't need vanity in soldering. So you can see solid, solid, solid. They aren't going anywhere anytime soon. I'm not against people that want to make it look pretty. Like I say, you can get plenty of people that will make these circuit boards look like art, and it's nice to look at, but I won't want to waste my labour time doing that. It's just, we're expensive enough as it is. So if we spent more time making things look even nicer looking, then it would be charging even more. Does that produce harmful fumes? Yes and no. It's I don't know how harmful. It's mainly the fumes in fluxes that aren't great for your health. I've got an extractor in front of me and I've got an air purifier behind me. I constantly get told off for not using the fume extractor, but yeah, they aren't good for your health as such. But how bad they are, I don't know. I don't think they'd be ridiculously bad because I don't know. I just think you'd have a lot more serious warnings than recommending ventilation and recommending fume extractors. It'd be, I think, a lot more forced. You know, if it was more dangerous, it's probably just, you know, an irritant and can be bad. But I do, like, if I'm not on stream and I'm doing a lot of soldering or we're doing things, I use the extractor. And like I say, I could do with finding a better extractor, because the fume extractor doesn't work when you're hot airing. So it's as good as useless if you're doing hot air, and most of my work is hot air. So that's why I tend to not use the extractor, because I'm not used to using hot air, but it only goes on while I'm tinning pads and then goes off again. Right, so that's the wires there. What we'll do with these is we'll group them all together when we're done, make them like a nice straightish line, and then we'll solder them onto these pads now. So I've cut them all to length, so they're basically right near here now. So the ones we pull out, we can see based on length which are which. So you can see the short one there is going to be the red, this one's going to be the blue, and the middle one's going to be the green. So we'll just strip the wire down. We are working on RGB modding a Mega Drive. So we're just installing the CleanRGB first, and then I'm going to make a custom mod for this, so you don't have to do all this wiring. So we're starting to get a lot more into the Mega Drive stuff now. I'm going to make shells for them for the Mega Drive 1, then probably the Mega Drive 2 after. So I'll be doing mods for them. There's a lot of people that say that the mods for the Mega Drive, nearly all of them don't work right. Region switches and DFOs and stuff like that. And I know from personal experience using some, they don't either. So I'm going to make like all the mods for the Mega Drive as well, as part of the making the shells and stuff, so we can get a bit of love for the Mega Drive. So this is just an existing mod you can buy. This is the CleanRGB Universal, which will get working, but I want to make an easier install than this. I want it to be wire free. So I'll show you what happens on the RGB signals when we tune this, because I think we'll have to tweak a resistor on the CleanRGB, because I think, if memory serves, the Mega Drive's initial RGB voltage levels are already too high to attenuate down with the stock CleanRGB. I think it's literally that high, they're that over spec, that we need to just change a resistor, but we'll see that when we get to it. Why won't this stupid little IPA tub work? Up early, yeah, we've been up now for 2 hours. I think I've been on stream about an hour and a half. But yeah, I did get up a little bit early today. But if you're awake, you're awake. Like I said, I didn't actually look at the time. I just came down and then saw the time once I was down. Do you use Amtech? I used to. Amtech's just that hard to get hold of and genuine. But I now use this Styri, and basically it's the some of the original founders of the original Amtech. So and it's easy to get hold of. That's the key thing now. It's actually something I can buy regular because I use that much of it. With Amtech, it's always ridiculously hard to buy. They're out of stock in the genuine places. So when you run out, you don't want to be wasting your time hunting for flux. You just want to get on with your job. So what we'll do for the wires, again, we'll make them neat enough that they look clean. So we will get this clear, which I think unfortunately is nearly running out, so it's a bit more of a hassle to use, but we'll get some clear. It's now called 3-second cure mask or something. So this one's an original. They're 3S, so in Chinese that'll say 3-second cure, I'd say. You can get them in various colours. I use clear generally. So get a bit on a cotton wool board, pull the wires to a position you want them to stay in. So we're just basically going for a cleanish look, like almost a single wire. So I'm going to do that, get it looking almost like one wire, blob a little bit over there, and you want it touching the wires and the board, because that's obviously the point of it. You want to tack the wires to the board so they don't move. So a little bit more on, and then we just get the UV curing torch. We'll try and get this to stay together. We don't want it fraying apart. We want it to look almost like one wire. There we go. Put the UV light on, cure it for the compulsory 3 seconds that it recommends. And then that's now tacked in place there. And then we'll do the same further down. So we'll then go a bit further down, position this wire. Again, people that want to be super clean and make this run in like squares and things, I'm just going for the clean enough look. I want it to be tacked in place, not look like messy wires floating everywhere, but good enough for me. These are not screw holes, I believe. One might be, actually. Do the back of there. Yeah, so one's a screw hole from the top, so we want to make sure the screw has enough room to go in, which it does. So we'll push him clean up against this chip, and we'll tack him just at the side of the chip there. And these little bits of UV cure resin that I'm putting down just snap off. So this is like permanent enough, but you can actually just pull them off and it comes off clean. So you don't need to worry too much about where you're tacking this. It just snaps off nice and easy. And then those legs or those remaining wires could just be pulled under the chip to look neat enough. And that's how I generally install enamel wire. Clean enough, all the pads are on, it's tacked there for a bit of strain relief, and then it's just tacked in a nice running place. That's as far as I go with, trying to make the job look clean, because again, I don't want to waste all my time making wires look pretty. I want it to be, it's always nice seeing it, clean. It is definitely a pleasure, but you have to balance that between getting the job done as well. So, what to make of the soldering iron YIHUA? I've just brought it, so again, I've got all the expensive irons. I've got thousands and thousands of pounds worth of irons, but I'm on these super cheap ones now, and they work just as good. So this is a YIHUA 982. It's 50 quid on AliExpress. Comes with 3 iron handles. Use the C245 handle. That's what this one is. And it comes with the tips. So this is everything that come with it for 50 quid. It's replaced one that was 200 quid. It's just as good as that. And the 200 quid one replaced a Hakko, which was 600 quid. And the Hakko replaced a Walla that was £1,000. And the only one that I'd say is better than all of these is just the Walla. Other than that, the Hakko, the cheap Chinese one, and the super cheap Chinese one all function identically. So luckily now, didn't used to be the case, but soldering irons are that good now. If you get ones with the C245 tips, you don't need to spend money on them anymore. They're just that good. This is literally the cheapest iron I've ever now brought, and it's functioning just as good as the £600 Hakko in every way. So there's one of them things that you can now, luckily, not spend your money on too much. Whereas things like oscilloscopes, you still have to spend a bit of money on to get good. So we've done the outputs. We just got to do the inputs. We just got to do the outputs now, and ground and 5 volts. So with the ground and 5 volts, you have ground, and then you've got 5 volts, and you've got this pin called greater than 5 volts. Now, the greater than 5 volts has a built-in regulator here that regulates the voltage, so that all these circuitry for the voltage is very specific and regulates to an exact voltage. If you go to the 5 volts and you only put in, if you go to the greater than 5 volts and you only put in 5 volts in, you'll end up with like 4 point something volts. So what we need to check really is what voltage comes out of these pins, effectively what's now going into here. If it's above 4 volts, we need to go into the 5 volt pin to get the full range. But the downside with that is, if the power brick that's powering this console or the regulator here changes the voltage slightly, then the RGB will marginally change with it. So probably nobody is going to notice, but for absolute perfectionists, if you want that RGB voltage to stay rock solid at the exact amount, then that's what you want to make sure, that you go through the greater than 5 volts and you input less than 4.5 volts in here. So I think it's time for the scope first to have a look at what's going on before we do them other wires. Yeah, I checked the C210 tip. It works fine. They both work fine, but I prefer the bigger iron with the small tip on. That is what works for me. So let's get the oscilloscope going. We'll need the power going into the system. I could do with, yeah, we need a white screen. So probably a flash card. And I could do with the composite so we can see what we're doing. Get to a white screen, because a white screen should then give us the maximum voltage out of the RGB signals, and that's where we tune it. So if we get this up, we plug the oscilloscope in. Move this scope over, set it up to 10 times, set the speed up, and overlay the scope on screen. Well, actually, let's overlay the composite on screen first. No, I did that right the first time. Power in, AV in, power on, flash cart in. Wanted a silver shell for the Mega Drive one. Missed that message. The shell we'll be making will be... Oh, I'm going to have to put the test suite on this. It doesn't have a test suite, I don't think. Yeah. And just load this up with 240p test suite. And that's not actually what's on screen, by the way. That's the retro scaler getting confused because the signal's disappeared. So if I turn that back on, it'll probably go to black. There we go, off and on. Right, 240p test suite for Mega Drive I have somewhere. Games, software and BIOS, 240p test suite. Mega Drive Genesis. And there, right, drop him onto here. That's done, that's done. It's easy enough. And now... that's back in, that's back on, and we should be able to get the test suite. There we go. And what we're after is, like I say, pure white. You want a screen that's showing nice pure whites, or ideally gradients, so you can see top to bottom. So test patterns, I can never remember, I just go through them all. That'll show white and that'll show staggers, but we probably want, how do we get out of the menu? Start. Color bars, that's good for each of them because there'll be different pulses at different areas. And you can also see the gradients. So you see how the very far left is pure black, or should be, and then they gradiate up. So you should see distinctive colors when we do the RGB between every stage, basically. So now, if we know we're in that screen, we can switch over to the oscilloscope, and we want to probe. I just want to see where we're at, basically, first. So we need a ground, which I forgot, so I'm going to have to tack a ground on live, which the iron's going to just whinge at me because I'm tacking onto... basically, the iron's going to sense the ground coming through the power and get confused and keep beeping at me. So I'll try to be quick on it. Hey, this one doesn't beep, does it? So it can't complain at me. So we have the ground on there. And now we can probe what we wanted, which was these pins down here. So where we'll probe is these inputs, which I don't know why I'm going out of there. I've got the big pads on here. I can now probe. So instead of that, let's pull up. Now we know what on basically what you're seeing on screen. If we pull up the scope and we probe on the red, and this is just what the console is currently sending raw. We need to get some trigger on there, so we can come down with the voltage. We can pull a trigger up. We've got a DC offset we need to remove, and these are the current values. So if we pause that, in fact, what I'll probably do, that's a bit of a messy screen. We want, for when we're first tuning it, we probably want a more stable screen. So let's go back. Do we want that one? Yeah, let's just keep it at that screen, say. So at the far end, we'll have one white and then the rest will all gradiate. So let's look at that instead on the scope. A bit less jumpy. There we go, so cleaner. So we know from, if we zoomed out, you can see there lines. The big gaps in the middle are the frames. So that'll be a full frame, and every other chunk, if you will, is going to be lines. So these two staggers here will be roughly a full screen going across. But we know from this that we have a voltage offset at 2.4, and we want we want a 0.1 offset. And this overall goes up to 3.4, so we can go into the over than 5 volts input. And we have a, I'd say there, a 955 millivolt range. That will want to be, on the final output stage, it will want to be 1.4 volts. So that's 0.4 volts under, and obviously this is not the final attenuation. So that tells me enough. That's all I needed to know. That means we can now wire in the rest of the mod, and then I'll explain what we're doing as we go. But that's good. That's a good thing. We have under 5 volts. Whether we still need to change some resistors is yet to be seen, but let's get these final wires put in. So now we want the ground and greater than 5 volts going to ground and 5 volts. So ground, we can go under here and over to here, or we could probably tack off this cap. So let's see if this cap has got 5 volts and ground, and then we can just run the wires down into here. If not, I'm sure we'll have a 5 volt here somewhere. There's going to be a 5 volt line around somewhere close on these caps, I'm sure. So ground is obviously here, so I'm sure that cap's ground, that cap's ground. So now we just need the 5 volt. For that, here's the 5 volt regulator and LDO. You can see I is in, G is ground, O is out. So we want this pin here underneath. So if we flipped over, this is 5 volt here. So if we come over to this side so we can get back to the other side, you've got 2 components here, which are 2 caps. So basically, this is where we can probe for 5 volts, the tip of this cap. And then if we go back over here now, knowing that is the 5 volt, let's see if this is. There you go. So that's 5 volt. That one isn't. So we'll go on this cap here. Ground is to the left, 5 volts to the right. So we'll go on the, remember the greater than 5 volts pin. Go on the ground pin. And then we'll strip the wires and away we go. And what mods do you guys want on the Mega Drives as well? Because that's something I've asked on the Discord is, because I'm going to be making the shells for them, we're like, right, what do we want the shells to support? One is HDMI. They want a port for HDMI on the shell built in, so like a punch hole that you can knock through if you've got HDMI, and otherwise it's kind of covered like an original. We want, personally, I'd want the region switch, but I'd be RGB modding. I wasn't really bothered or interested in the composite side of things, but people want dual frequency oscillators. I think, is there still enough people that want the composite, like the crap quality output, basically, when you switch between 50 and 60 hertz, the color, the chroma doesn't switch, so you get messed up color. And that's what I'm thinking this has currently got as well. That's why the color's messed up. So you can make something called a dual frequency oscillator, which then all it does is replace the chroma crystal with a toggle switch between PAL and NTSC. So you get the correct color on composite. I can make that as well. It's just something I wasn't going to make. But we've got a region switch, in-game reset through your controller. There's another thing people want. Obviously, the CleanRGB I'm doing. I'm going to do a clean amp as well, so it improves the audio. Because again, the audio levels are probably not perfect on these things. That's ground, you idiot. That's the 5 volts. But yeah, if there's any mods you want on the Mega Drive, either jump on the Discord and go in the Mega Drive section and just, like, you know, leave your notes about what you're thinking you're wanting, because I'm going to start actively doing some mods for these Mega Drives soon. And the debate is, do I do like one mega mod that just, because I think most people on the Mega Drive scene seem to want everything. They don't want just like, oh, well, I'll just get CleanRGB, or I just want an in-game reset. They tend to want, if they want something, they want to do everything. They want the video, the audio, the jailbar fixing, the region switching. You know, it's like all or nothing kind of thing. So I'm semi-tempted to make like an Uber mod for it, but it's not that good if you just wanted a granular mod and then you're paying all the money for a more complicated mod. So I'd have to get some more feedback. Like I say, I haven't done that much in the scene, basically, to like in the Mega Drive scene, to see what people want. So that's what I'm starting to slowly do now, is get onto these Mega Drives. Custom BIOS, it's a good point. I think the Mega Drive hasn't got a built-in game, has it? That's the Master System, so I've never really looked at if there's any form of BIOS mods on the Mega Drive, to be honest. We do the region-free Mega CD, but the Mega Drives are region-free if you just toggle the region. Basically, that's what the region switch does. So I'm not actually sure if there's any BIOS mods for it. Certainly something we can do. I can also store the BIOSes inside of a Raspberry Pi Pico as part of the whole mod kit, so you could just drag and drop a BIOS on if that was the case. Extra headphone port on the back is actually a good shout there. That's not a bad idea. Welcome in, Vincent. We are modding a Mega Drive 2. It's in bits over here at the minute. This is the customers. We're modding a Mega Drive 2, this thing, to give it RGB output so the video is much nicer. I think we're probably going to have to do some jailbar fixes as well on this, at a guess. But we'll see how far we get with this first. It's only 6 o'clock, so we've got plenty of time at the minute. Right, so red, green, and blue wires we need now. And then we'll obviously have to tune this, but that takes seconds, unless we have to change resistors, which is not that big of a deal either if we have to. Yeah, we're going like old school Xbox OG mods. An LCD like the Executor mods. I could do an e-paper so it doesn't drain battery and it stays on, but then there's no point really, because it's only useful if it's on. I could go with the extremes as well and even read what games are in. Read the headers of the data as it turns on and tell you what game's running, but I think that's more of a gimmick than a useful feature. We'll cut this just roughly to length for now, and then bend them into place and cut them after. Repairing charge system on what console? Shell color for the Mega Drives. I'm thinking it's expensive, so I was thinking just original at first, because it's going to cost about 20 to 25 grand for me to make the 3D models, the steel injection tooling, and all the stuff that goes around with injection molding. So I'm going to be like 25 grand in the hole for that. Then the shell runs I only run in thousands because I use major OEM factories. So it will be a minimum of 1,000 shells, which is a lot of large shells, like where the hell am I going to store them kind of thing. So I was thinking of just one colour, and originally I was going to go with original, but there's quite a lot of people that said it's like split between original or clear black, because people that are doing mods apparently like to see inside the consoles as well. So I'm torn between using original black, so it's literally a new original shell, and the clear black. We could do both, but we'd have to sell a lot or get a lot of interest. And I'm not one for doing things like Kickstarters and patrons and all that crap. I just make the products and they sell. So we could pre-sell and be safe and all that lot, but I don't tend to do that. So at the minute, the debate is unfortunately just between probably one shell to start with, and then maybe if it sells well, we can do another shell. But yeah, it's one of them that due to just the physical size of the shells, they're not like Game Boy shells where I can store 1,000 Mega Drive shells. Going to take up a load of storage space. So for this one, I'm just going to come all the way across and up. Actually, we want to go up there. This one will want to be across. So what I'll do actually is I'll do the red the longest, just so when I come to stick these down, I know which one's which. Then I'll zoom out a bit as well so you can see a bit more. The blue I'm going to make the next shortest. So all I'm doing here is, because I'm going to stick these wires down with the epoxy, and you want them all together, I'm getting them in a rough position, and then I'm making the wires a different length, so that when I glue these in with the UV Cure gel now, I want to now group all these together to make just a nice neat trail. I don't have to reprobe which is which, because the length of the wire now tells me. The R is the longest, then the G, then the B. So I can now group all these wires like this, tack them in place, and then I already know what the wires are when they're tacked in place. So where's it gone? There. Get some more of this clear UV resin. Get the UV Cure ready. And then we want to probably group them here first. Maybe have a little blob here, just to keep them somewhere like. So that's just going to hold the wires there. Now we can pull these over. Nice and tight like that. So they stay like that. We should have been born with 3 hands as well. Why we haven't evolved to 3 hands yet is beyond me. Definite requirement. A little bit of UV Cure there. Hey, welcome in from the US. Glad you're liking the streams. We've started limiting all the chat to only show for subs as well, just so it keeps the chat a bit cleaner and I can focus on the work I'm doing. So if subscribers comment, it'll pop up on stream and I'll answer pretty much straight away. Otherwise, I'll keep looking out for the chat when it suits, basically. So I shouldn't miss any chat, but if you want yours popping up on stream and not just being a sound, then you can just sub to the channel and it'll pop up on stream like it used to. Now, that's all the wires tacked in place. You start early. We've been on for 2 hours now. So this is actually getting late now. Right, so there's the wires tacked in. And what we've got to do is bend them back into this chip for the final stage and cut to size. So we will zoom in for this. And now this is why I cut the wires to a certain length, because now we have 3 wires here. But you can see one is the shortest. So that's going to be the green here. So what we can do, oh, that didn't tack on very well. That UV cure resin didn't exactly set. Let's try that again. Or it did, and I've just bent the wires because it's, like I say, it's not super strong. It's designed to just hold. So let me just put some more on. Get this glued back down. So this is now 20-second set, not 3-second set. There we go. Yeah, so now the shortest wire, which you can see floating here, and I'll try not to tug him too much now, will be the green. So we can pull him into these pins here, or we can go to the vias. Now, I said I was going to go to these pins, but I will go to them pins, but I'm going to do that under the microscope because I don't have any depth perception on the top-down view here. It's obviously looking at a flat screen, and because the pins are actually floating above here, so you'll probably see if we pull focus there, it's going to be hard to even see there, but you know from at the start of the stream, them legs are floating in the air. So I can just about see them legs are up in the air. I've got to solder underneath them without touching them, so I'm not going to do that without some depth perception. So I'm going to jump over to this view, and you can see the state of this desk at the minute in between all the jobs. And I'm just going to use my actual microscope for once to do this job nice and neat, because I need to see what I'm doing here. So it's not a problem to do. We can do this no problem, but I do need to see what I'm doing. So that's there. Oh yeah, you forget how easy it is to solder when you've got a microscope. I've got that used to using the stream window. You forget how nice you can make stuff look if you're looking properly, and how easy it is to see where the wire is. I can actually get, well, I do have a thing on top of here as well. So if I zoom this up and zoom out a bit, I guess you're kind of looking at nothing there. I do actually have this thing on top for HDMI, but the quality of this compared to the overhead camera is that bad that I just don't use it, because then I'd be able to use the scope and you guys could see what I'm looking at. But until I find a better quality one, I'd probably want to put, at the extreme, I could put a Blackmagic camera hanging off the top of there, but the weight of it, like, it's too heavy for the microscope. But yeah, I could do with finding a decent microscope optics on top. So you could actually, I could then use the scope, because it does help a lot to make some joints easier to do. But to be honest, like I say, I've kind of learned a skill now to solder on stream without a microscope, and with what's got to be almost a half-second delay between my hand moving and it's actually doing something. So new skill learned anyway. And the delay today is crazy. I'm sure the delay is like close to a second on stream, so it's extra difficult to do. I don't know how I haven't melted this AV port as well. Every time I'm looking under the microscope and then I see to the right of me that DC jack rather. I'm amazed I haven't clipped it. There we go. Yeah, it's mainly the problem with the scope is the weight of the equipment that goes on top. Oh, you know what I could use maybe? Oh, I know what I can use. Like another £1,000 though. A Blackmagic Micro. I forgot all about them. Because you're going to need something with a CCD sensor on. So like a SLR type camera or a Blackmagic. But the Micro's tiny. And then I could probably adapt this bracket somehow to fit it. But the biggest issues you have with these microscope adapters up here is this has got to be crazy accurate up and down. So you've got to be really accurate within like 0.5 millimeter up and down because that's your focus. And then the tilt and position centrally all have to line up. Otherwise, you don't get the image out. So it would have to be, I don't even know what it'd have to be. It'd have to be either in like really good luck that it fits or a custom CNC'd metal part probably to make it work. I've spent so many hours trying to get good. Well, even just the apparently existing working HDMI things that go on top of microscopes even working because they have so much fringing that it's a pain in the arse. So I can imagine doing a custom Blackmagic one being even worse. But it would be cool. A Blackmagic HDMI microscope view would be insane because then I could work properly and like I say, you guys could see the same level of detail, whereas at the minute the top-down camera's that good, it beats the microscope, so it just isn't worth it. So I can show you. We've got it hooked up. I can show you the difference. And then you can actually have both on screen at the same time. So if I get this HDMI cable, wing it through here, take it out of there, pull it up here. This is why I didn't do it last time. I need a 5 or 12 volt plug, but is the Mega Drive one the right plug? I think maybe. No, it doesn't quite fit, does it? Let's see if I've got 1 minute. I think we might. Might be in luck here. This fits, and I can show you how shit this is. Yes, there we go. And this is one of the high-end ones. This is like, well, I say high-end. I've tried many of them. This is one of the best ones. What view are we on? That one, maybe? Yeah, there we go. So this will kick in. And then there's your quality. So obviously we can focus. So let's try and pull focus somewhere. So that, I mean, it's not that bad. But if you put that up on, say, full screen, it's actually not that bad. So this is my actual microscope. I haven't cleaned this area yet. Yeah, I remember it being worse than this. But the problem there is, that's, yeah, so there we go. As soon as you get some flux or things on, spray some flux on. Look at like the aberrations on the lens that you start getting and like glows and things. So it looks all right, but I can tell, you know, like traces it shows off good. But then, I don't know. I don't know that you can tell by eye, but to me, it's a little bit strange. So that's that one. And then if we go to the overhead instead, and just unplug that a minute, move that out of the way, and then go to max zoom on here. Just see how like clearer that is, like zooming in this, so this is like microscope level, you get a bit of blur because that's a digital zoom. But the overall visual there is more like my eye. So to be honest, the scope one isn't that bad. I might wire it up so it's an option. But, you know, that's there. And then we bring this back over, plug the HDMI in, go back to HDMI. This is my live microscope view. So, yeah, I don't think it's that bad. And you can zoom in even more, obviously, on a microscope as well. So we can get crazy levels of zoom. But does it work on? Yeah, so my that's also my polarizer light that I can use to, when you want to see labels, you can kind of tweak the polarizer light. So to be honest, it's not that bad. I remember it being worse. So what do you guys think? You think we should actually use like when I need the microscope, do you think I should show you guys this view while I'm working away? And then you could, I could make a view specific for the microscope, so you can still see me on this top camera, say, and the microscope on the bottom. It's an option. I've got all the inputs I need. But could have sworn that was worse when I last tested it. That doesn't seem too bad. Let's plug this back into here. It's out of the way again. Can't wait to get this desk a bit cleaner in a minute. In fact, I might clean it now because we're getting a bit crazy on the old desk again. Yeah, looks good. I suppose the other thing on mine is I'm looking at a giant 56-inch TV screen, so I'm looking at it super blown up. But yeah, it does actually look better than I remember it looking. So I'll probably wire that in later if I get bored. And then we've got just another viewing angle. Because some things, like say, you see me where I just say I've got to use the scope. There's no real choice. I need the depth perception. Plus, then I can also do a bit cleaner job on some of the work, because I'll sacrifice the quality of the job for you guys being able to see what I'm doing. Whereas if I know I can just put the microscope on, I'll probably use it a lot more. I always used to use it until streaming, and then I just had to get used to not using it. So I think, did we wire everything in? RGB. Yep, so top down, zoom out, zoom out. There we go. Oh yeah, the overhead can't see it. I try to keep my head out of the way, but sometimes, yeah, you're just going to get the big faux head going in. So yeah, it'd be I'll wire that up, and then we'll use it. And then the top down, I don't know, I prefer the top down though. I've got used to this now that I prefer using it, so I'll still probably use this for a lot of the work, and you can see more going on. It's just for the fine work with zoom in then, really. Right, so we've got the red, green, and blue wired into the outputs. That should now go to the actual output. The 5V and ground are in, they're coming in there. So now what we've got to do is tune this with the picoscope. Where's it gone? Too many things on this desk. So all we have to do, this is why it's easy with an oscilloscope, but for people that don't have an oscilloscope, installing the CleanRGB Universal is a bit of a pain, because you really need a scope to see this. We will also plug in, actually, the composite first. We need to get that white screen back up. So let's get things plugged back in. Power in. We want the HDMI back over. Controller in. And is this now? Oh, there you go, hanging out. I've got to really, the HDMI's wrapped around the power cord, tugging it out. There we go, that's in. Let's go to 240p test suite. Test patterns. I think we use that. Yeah, look how bad that composite is. I might have to fix that composite, because that's I can try it in my CRT actually. Let's just check in the real CRT what we're looking at. I think that's just the retro scaler. So ignore that crazy flashing. That is the retro scaler getting confused. So in a real CRT, it doesn't look too bad. So it still doesn't quite look right. It looks desaturated, but that is literally the state of. Oh, that doesn't like the CRT either. It's flickering everywhere. But yeah, that is technically working. That's working how it's worked since the start. We haven't changed anything there. That's the only downside with this OBSBot camera as well, because it's not a true camera in a sense. It hasn't got the shutter, like an active shutter like the Blackmagic. when this side view here that you're looking at now was the Blackmagic, you could actually capture the CRT with no flicker. But because I'm gaining the benefit of being able to, yeah, your eyes, gaining the benefit of being able to move around and zoom in with this was more beneficial than having the Blackmagic camera at the side. Right, so that is, where are we going with this now? Back on screen. So we'll use the that bar there. Say that's what we looked at before. And we'll go, this is the input, which I presume is still the same. Yep, so that's the input. What we want to do first is remove this DC offset. So we're looking for this DC offset there going down to basically as close to 0 as we can down here. So to do that, we get a little dial. And I can zoom in on this because you don't need to see anything else bar the dial. So on here, while we're probing DC offset here, because it's going to modify the input, you can see the DC offset's already got a slight value. We want to turn this dial and remove that DC offset. So we want to turn it until that DC offset comes down. You see, that's the first problem. So I remember with this, so we are going to already need, it's the DC offset that needs more power. So it hasn't got enough power to remove that DC offset because it's so high, 2.4 volts offset. The full maximum DC offset won't remove it. So for the Mega Drive, I need to change a resistor on the CleanRGB. So let me try and remember which one it is. I'll pull up the schematic and take a look at what resistor did what. CleanRGB hardware version 1. Right, so counterclockwise removes offset, counterclockwise removes that. So it's going to be, I'd say, this resistor, which means that probably wants to be higher or lower, I forget. So it's this resistor here we want to change. So I'm going to stack, and is it an 04 or an 06? I think it's an 06, isn't it? Yeah. I'm going to stack a resistor on top. So I'm going to stack another 10k on top to halve the value to 5k. And then if I'm wrong, I can lift that off and put a higher resistor on instead to increase the pull. I just can't remember which way around it is. My notes on the schematic weren't the best. So, well, they are good, but I didn't make enough notes when I designed the circuit of exactly which way around things were going when I was designing it. Hey, thanks. I'm glad you're liking the work. We're just giving the Mega Drive some love now. So we will actually, I'm going to microscope this again. So, oh, he says all the wires are wrapped around. I just don't want to get stuff on that test pad if I can help it. So let me just do this clean. 10k is over here. So stacking a 10k on a 10k is going to halve the resistance pretty much, just close to. So we're going to get about 5k on this specific resistor. And then if that works, well, it will work. It's one way or the other. It's higher or lower, basically. Bruce's price is right. We're either going to go up or down. So now if we go back to the scope, which is that one, we'll see what that's done to... now we're going to have to go back to the screen first and get back to that menu. And this is why I want to make the integrated mod, because obviously this is more of a faff, a lot more of a faff than it needs to be, than just plonking on a mod and it working. So obviously that's why I want to make this mod. See how that's much better now as well. The comp's just gone much better. I think that's just the retro scaler, not quite handling the colour. Right, so we're back at that screen. Get this back over, and now if we went to the red again, now what will the dial do? Is it stronger? Now the dial's doing nothing. So, oh, probing the wrong one. There's the DC offset. There we go. So stronger, but still not strong enough. So it needs to be even more to be able to remove that offset. Which is obviously the way this works is that's how I want it working. I don't want it being a capacitor-driven offset removal. I want to specifically remove this. So I'm going to change that down, considering it needs to be quite high. I'm going to do a 3.3K, a 3K resistor. So I'm going to swipe that existing one off, and I'm going to put a 3K on, and then that should give us enough draw to be able to remove that DC offset fully. And if I remember rightly, I think the same with the divide. I think for the divide on this, it ends up being the same because the voltage is so high compared to most other consoles. The default RGB is already quite high. We could, instead of altering the CleanRGB, we could just alter that voltage divider on the Mega Drive. Probably be easier than this, but this is only a one-off. Once I've done this, I'm going to make the mod that specifically suits this anyway, so it doesn't really matter which way around I do this. It's just really to show you what's going on this. So we want back into 240p test suite. Yeah, funnily enough, I used to be in the States, had a business over there. I never lived over there, but used to be over there all the time. We do have a guy that now does our Retro6 US website. So we have a retro6.us website, and we work closely with a guy, Crossface Gaming. He runs another TikTok. We trust him with literally our brand name over there, so that's how much we trust him. So if you wanted work doing, you can literally book it in on retro6.us. And I would fully trust him with your retro consoles and stuff. He's a great guy, honest, good at what he does, and I work with him if he needs assistance or I need assistance. We always talk to each other as well, so works out really well for us and the customers. So now we have, hopefully, there we go. So we've got enough power now with the 3. So we turn it back up, you can see there's the range now. So we want to bring it down, and we want it to just hit that 0. You don't want to go past, otherwise you're going to remove some colour. Like at the low end, you'll lose the low end. So that's fine on that. So now we need to do that on the other 2, so that they all have that pull. So we'll go back to this one a minute while I chuck the 3K resistors on. And then I can use this. I can use this setup then when I'm making the drop-in mod that doesn't need tuning. I can use all these values as part of it when I make the. I'm going to make a mod so this just drops in, no wires, flex circuit, pre-configured, perfect for RGB. It's been a long time coming. It's just I've been busy with all the other mods that this has never really had the attention it needs, and I think the Mega Drive is one of the nicest consoles, one of the ones I grew up with, so it really is overdue some decent Retro 6 mods. And then wait till you see the difference in it. People that haven't seen RGB, wait till you see the difference in this RGB when we're done. The level of clarity and sharpness on Sonic is just so much better. Right, that's them on. Back to this. Turn on. Nearly there now, and then this will just plug in and work when we're done. And it's still not even 7 o'clock. Right, so that's that. Pull up the scope. Get these all tuned in for the DC offsets. That one's still fine. And you can see if I do this as well, just so we know where the top level is on the red. They should all, in theory now, end up falling between that line. That should be how this works. There we go. And then the blue. Realise you guys can't see where I'm probing there. And then on the blue, we turn that down as well. There we go. So that's the DC offset removed. And now all there is, you've got a divide and a gain, but you don't need either of them. You go straight to the finishing point here. So what you need now for perfect RGB is this red pad here. This wants to be 1.6 volts. So what you'll see firstly is, notice this bottom now has gone from ground, where it was, and it's come up to exactly 0.2. So if I pull that up on screen fully, you see how it's got the 0.2 offsets. That's because that's what you want. That's called sync tip restoration. So when the receiver, like the TV, wants to find where sync is, it has a diode that shunts the excess AC voltage that we've now removed to ground to restore the sync tip, so it can restore floating points. But there's downsides to that because you get things like field tilt, field droop, all AC coupling issues. So we fully remove the DC offset, so they don't need to do the sync tip restoration, but they're going to expect this 0.2 for the diode drop. So that's why this output's 0.2. And now what we want for the final output is from the 0.2, it wants to be 1.4 in amplitude. So it wants to be right on there for the absolute perfect position. Or if this was on ground, then it'd be a 1.6 volt from ground to the top. But if we measure it from the actual offset of 0.2, we now just need to turn the red dials, so the divide and gain up and down. So clockwise grows the signal, anti-clockwise reduces it. So you can see, again, that's the maximum reduction in signal that we can get. Actually, no, it isn't, because the gain was not fully set. And then we bring the trigger down, that's there. So we can actually, yeah, that goes up and down. So that's fully down, and the gain goes up and down. So that's everything almost maxed out, and it's slightly under. So then we can just do a bit less on the divide, basically. So we'll bring that up until it's perfect there. And this also, because you can adjust the red, green, and blue channels independently, you can actually change the tone, the color tone, and the warmth and the temperature on screen. So if you've got a CRT, say, or a receiver in general where the colors are slightly off, so they're slightly blue or yellow or red, you can turn these dials to correct the color tone of your TV. So what we've done there is fully turn down the gains because they're set to midpoint. So fully turn down the gains. And now we just need to fully turn down the divides, and we should just have to slightly tweak the divides. So that's the red, perfect. Green here should be slightly under, which it is. So we're going to gain with the divide going slightly up. That's perfect. And the blue, same again. There's the blue, go slightly up. Absolutely perfect. So that's what we want to see. So without doing anything, well, I'll say without doing anything, we just spent about 2 hours doing this. From the oscilloscope, looking at that oscilloscope, I can tell you now this is going to show perfect on RGB. So we can just plug in an RGB cable now and see what happens with Sonic. The only thing we might get now is, because the signal's so clean and sharp, and because of potential design flaws in the Mega drives, we might get jail bars. So some horizontal or vertical lines or patterns, which is another fix, nothing to do with the RGB. That would be cleaning up the circuit board layout, basically. Clean power for the Saturn, yes, we do. We've literally, at the start of the stream, I've just done it. So this is a brand new design. Like, we've already made it a year or 2 ago. This is a brand new one that's now out. You can go on retro6.co.uk and grab it. But it's pre-order because I've just literally put this in production, so it's going to be a couple of weeks till it's in. But that's the new clean power for the Sega Saturn. Runs stone cold, can handle almost 100 watt of power, so this could power 3 Sega Saturns off 1 power bank, so crazy overspec. Comes with everything you need, both a white and a black bracket for both colour consoles. And yeah, that's on. It's a new super low price as well, so we're also the cheapest USB-C power mod for the Saturn and the Dreamcast as well. HDMI I've not done yet. We do clean RGB, so this thing we're doing right now for the Mega Drive. This is the same for the Saturn. You can use the same mod. So then you can get the CleanRGB out of there through anything like an OSSC to get HDMI. So at the minute, the HDMI is you CleanRGB mod the console, and then you have HDMI afterwards, which, to be honest, I think is the better way anyway, because then you can still use RGB, and you can upscale to HDMI, and you can also split out, so you could play on a real monitor if you're going to say stream as well. You can play on a real monitor with RGB and have the HDMI from the OSSC go into your stream. So there's that. I'm going to leave bits out for now in case we need to still tune or probe this, like if we've got any issues with jail bars. But let's now see where we've got with this. So I've got also, this is the first, funnily enough, the first prototype of the CleanRGB cable for the Mega Drive 2. Made it a while ago. So these are all made, again, I've designed all the circuits, so there's a circuit board in here. And we have these made out of super high quality double or triple insulated braid. So you've got an outside shield, every single pair inside is shielded, and then every single wire inside that is shielded as well. So there's a lot of shielding in here, basically, to give you the cleanest signal. But if this works on here now, I'll get these Mega Drive 2 RGB cables made, mass-produced, and I'm probably going to then, well, I will then make the drop-in CleanRGB mod for this. So instead of doing all this wiring, you've seen how much work this is, I'm going to make a drop-in mod for the Mega Drive, so the CleanRGB, you guys don't have to mess with like this. You're just going to solder in a few blobs on a flex ribbon and be done with it. So we turn that on. That's the OSSC. I've got so many wires out here, so I can't wait to clean this desk up. Let's pull this over the top. Right, and tap on that. Turn on. A moment of truth. What do we see? And I don't know whether I've got this OSSC turned down, or if we mentioned the last time the capture is off. Yeah, that's miles off on something. Yeah, something's off on there completely. So is it the OSSC? The thing is, I think it's actually this capture card. You see how we keep getting issues on the capture card? Let's plug it in the actual CRT first. Let's see if it's outputting okay on that, and then I can always scope it as well. But on the scope, we know the signal's good, basically. So restart that. And let's see on here. Turn on, turn that off. No, it looks too dark still, so something's not quite... yeah, so it's the same on here, so that could be my prototype cable isn't wired right. Or we've done something wrong there. That could be the sync, actually, but I don't think it's the sync. It could also be... let's have a look at what's going on the scope. So we know we can trust the OSSC, so we don't need that on. And let's probe what's going on. There's a few things that could be going wrong. There's the sync that we're not passing through our board. So the sync at the minute isn't attenuated through our board because it goes straight to the AV port. There could be something between the traces and the port, even though on the schematic it wasn't. No, they go straight to the pins. So that's not a problem. It wasn't because I've left the probe isn't on. Or is it that 5 volt? Let me just move the 5 volt over from the greater than 5 volts to the 5 volts because I'm wondering whether we're chopping. I doubt it's that. I've got a feeling it's more likely going to be that sync we need to fix. Yeah, but let's just move this over a minute to see where we're at. But I'm going to suspect it's the sync signal because that's the only thing we're not passing through the CleanRGB, and I think we'll have to because it needs to be all cleaned up by the looks of it. So that's on there. Turn on. And I doubt this is going to change much. So that's then, yeah, going off the 5 volt now, it's changed the voltages, so we're not even seeing anything. Let's have a look on the scope. Scope's that one. That's not the scope. Oh yeah, it is the scope, it's just minimized. Where's the scope? There we go. So the input's still there. The output is gone because the DC offset has now gone too far. So let's, just out of curiosity, let's tune this back now with the DC offset. There, and then we get some red, I presume. Yeah, so going into the 5 volts is better. So let's unplug that so we don't get any feedback. Let's go into the menu I'm in. So it might be the greater than 5 volt pad. It's cropping data. Let's pull up this. I don't know if I can see anything or enough to be able to get back into that menu a minute. It's there. We have back to the crappy composite a minute. So we can get to that menu, and I'm just going to tune it now based on the 5 volt, not the greater than 5 volt. And then we'll see what that does. So that's that. And then we now want to pull up the scope, go on the DC offsets again, make sure we've got just the right amount on the offset. So that goes down to 0 on that. Down to 0 on that. It's interesting how much using the separate regulated output has changed that. There we go. Oh yeah, down to 0. There. So there. Forgetting that should have been down to ground. There we go. That's them 3, and then the final outputs. Now we need to get that dialed up. There. There. And there. So that's now tuned on the same 5 volt rail as the rest of the system. This is C-Sync, it's already wired to the port. So that should be, we should just be able to plug this in now. So that goes into there. And HDMI comes out of that one into the OSSC. I could do with wiring these up through a little switch as well. And then back to that. See, and we're still getting this droop, so it's going to be, that is going to be the sync issue. So because if you remember at the start, I'll show you why this is happening. And I did say it might end up needing, and obviously everything we always don't do is needed. If I pull up the schematic for the Mega Drive, so you know why. Where's the schematics? Mega Drive 2, we're on, aren't we? Mega Drive 2, VA0, schematics, bring them over. And then if we go to the PC, when we were looking at this at the start, if you remember, when we looked on here, we've replaced the red, green, and blue. So our outputs now control the output, but we mentioned this sync in, comes up through this wire, goes across, down, and straight into the C-Sync port. Now, that, presuming I've wired the prototype cable right as well, that signal is obviously coming straight from an AV. There's no 75 ohm boost or attenuation there. So we really need to cut the trace from C-Sync from the port and then wire it through the CleanRGB, because I can guarantee you that's what's collapsing. The RGB is perfect. It's been both times it looks perfect. And you're seeing a complete mess on visual. So this is 100% going to be the sync signal screw. Well, I'm 99% sure that's the sync signal screwing up. So let's do that. And Yeah, I'm sure I've wired this cable right. It is a prototype cable, but I'm sure it's wired right. Let me just pull up my own wiki for the pinout on the bottom, which I presume I've done. AV pinout, yeah, so nicely on the bottom on the wiki, retro6.wiki. I've got a pinout showing you the underside of the board. So that means we can flip this board around, see the bottom port here, and we now know those pins are the pins in that image. So we have, out of these bottom four, you've got audio right, audio left, C-Sync is this one, and then composite and red. So the C-Sync is the middle one. So we're just going to blow through this trace here, solder the output to our clean comp here and the input here. And that should hopefully fix that issue. And it's why really you should just pass everything through the clean comp in the first place. And I think that's through. Yep, there we go. So that's blown through. So now we want a wire attaching on this side for the input into the clean RGB, and this one being the output. So that's what we'll do here. And then you shouldn't have to tune the sync. It's very rare you have to tune the sync because it accepts, almost every receiver accepts the sync value anywhere from 0.6 volt. Well, to be honest, they even accept it to 0.3 sometimes, but 0.6 volts up to 5 volts, everything tolerates that on the sync pin from what I've found. So you rarely need to tune the sync pin. So that's we can get that overlay off now. We know what pin it is. That wants to go to the input of our clean RGB. So we'll flip it round, come round here, down onto this set of wires over here. And then we will just tap in to this, go along, up and over. So zoom out a bit, you're not really getting any view there being that zoomed in. There we go. Sync in. That's on there, and then we can tack that in afterwards. And now the output, we might as well go from here and back down. So sync output. This can go under, and to be honest, we'll probably sneak under the board, keep the wire out of the way. Go up through there. Down through there, and then that'll be long enough. To flip it over. And then we want that wire now to be the output back to the port. So basically that will go to there. And then now the clean RGB is controlling the sync as well. And hopefully, if that doesn't work, I'm a bit confused if that doesn't work, to be honest, but this should work fine now. If this didn't work, then we'd have something wrong, almost definitely, with either the prototype cable or the clean RGB board might be faulty, but I doubt it's either of them. It's almost definitely going to be this sync pin is just not valid. I don't think the sync was ever suitable for RGB, coming straight out of, I presume, the ASIC, so just completely the wrong impedance. Right, so that's all in there. Yeah, that's the wiki was written before Endgame come out, so that article was written literally before Endgame was possible. So yeah, I'll DM me in Discord and give me a quick rundown. I've not used Endgame yet. If you give me like a quick rundown, I can add it to the wiki of the quickest way of doing it. It's also useful for grabbing the EEPROM keys as well for the hard drive. So when you're doing hard drive swaps at the minute, I have to chuck on an Aladdin mod just to read the EEPROM, or take off the EEPROM and put it in a reader. So the Endgame, when I saw that, the first thing I thought of was like, oh yeah, you can get the hard drive key without messing around. So I still just haven't had a chance to mess with it yet. Right, so that's all on. We should be able to go for a straight boot into RGB again. So that's in, that's on. What are we reckoning? It's finally going to work now. Always seems to make us work for this result on stream. Overlay, and here we go. We better hope it's working, otherwise I don't know. There you go, look at that, nice bright white. Get in, there you go. That's what you call clean RGB. So let's play some Sonic. Oh, look at that. Tell me that is not better than composite. Just look at that. Absolutely crazy nice. Wow, 50 hertz is slow though. I've got used to playing Sonic. Oh my god, and the delay as well. I am definitely today going to set up what I said so I can play this through my CRT, because oh no, Sonic's coming. Go, go, go. Yes. We're back. No. I'm blaming the lag on this. I can normally fly Sonic. No. Go, 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 go. No, missed it. Oh, we're in trouble now. We're not getting far enough in front. No, they don't do anything. Yes. We're free. Doing well this time. But yeah, look at the difference between RGB. You can't tell me you still want to play composite. See, this is why when I'm mentioning I'm going to do the mods for the Mega Drive, do we really want DFO and dual frequency oscillator for composite? Why would you not just want RGB? No, I wasn't paying attention, shit. We're done. No, I got to the end as well. Ah. That's working. Let's chuck in the flash card. See what games we've got on there. Yeah, just look at that clean, pure white. It's nice. Any games preferences? What do I like playing? See, Golden Axe is cool. Mega Drive Europe's got to be ours. Actually, I'll tell you what, shall we go on Mega Drive USA? And let's go on Sonic Full Speed. The original Sonic. What Sonic do we like, actually? Sonic and Knuckles, Sonic 3D, Sonic Spinball, Sonic 2. Let's go on Sonic 2. Beta. Oh no, obviously Sonic 2 is the unofficial one. Where's Sonic? Just Sonic the Hedgehog. Or is Mega Drive? Oh yeah, Master System Sonic 1. Isn't that better? Mega Drive starts at 2. Ooh, let's go on World actually. Oh, Streets of Rage, that's actually a good shout. Right, I can probably put this back on normal size, maybe. Sonic and Tails. No thank you, Tails. Oh yeah, nice colour. Yeah, I don't think you can beat the graphics though. I think that the Mega Drive era is just bright enough and just enough shading that it's still retro, but just looks really nice. I haven't played this one in ages, to be honest. I'm always playing the Master System Mega Drive 1 and 2. So the Master System Sonic 1 and 2. I rarely play the Mega Drive one, but the Mega Drive one is so nice. Just really nice colours. I'm obviously biased because it's now got a CleanRGB in. And this is actually the prototype Mega Drive 2 CleanRGB cable. So this is the first time I've ever tested the Mega Drive 2 through our SCART cable. And I'm impressed with that. It's nice and clean. Not doing too bad with the lag either, to be honest, because there's a pretty crazy lag on here. Ooh, secret. Has the Mega Drive one still got like the Chaos Emeralds that you collect on every level? I can't even remember which one had the Chaos Emeralds. There's that many Sonics. I just remember finding one as a kid, and I could never find any more, and I couldn't believe when I found, like, it just felt like a proper cool secret to find, like, the Chaos Emerald. Right, Streets of Rage. And then I think, God, it's only 7 o'clock still. Nobody's up. And it's Sunday. This is why I hate Sundays. You can get up early, work loads, do stuff. I still can't even go for a coffee. Nowhere's open. The missus will still be in bed. It's like, what? I'll go clean the car or something. Right then. Mega Drive, Streets of Rage. Hang on, they're in order. Alameno, PQRS. Yeah, that's actually the right one. And I don't think, if we go on full screen, I don't think there's any jail bars on this at all. I think this is actually completely clean. So this is a VA0 Mega Drive 2. I was expecting we'd get some banding or something. This is, I mean, look close. No, the only noise we've got is off the cheap power supply. So just a tiny bit of grain noise, but that is literally just the power supply. Basically, it's nothing else. I know way this Sonic's the first game that you had. That's what I mean. I think with the retro side of things, it's all about the memories. It's why I love it. It's the games for me are like Pokemon. I played it last night as well. I was playing Pokemon trading card game and Pokemon Emerald, but the memories for me are like the Pokemon Yellow and Pokemon trading card game. I can play them over and over, and even though they're just basic, simple games, I think if you've got memories, nothing beats that. I think the pleasure comes from the fact you remember as a kid how fun they were. And if you play a game you never played as a kid, you don't get that same feeling. You're just like, this game's a bit boring. But if you played the game as a kid, you can sit there and play a game that's so simplistic for hours and hours and hours because you've got your memories. That is what makes them so enjoyable. But yeah, I think I can't really remember. I can remember this game. I used to go a friend's house to play this. I didn't have. I don't think I had the Mega Drive. I had the Master System. But I used to go to a friend's house to play this one. Tommy was called, and we used to play Streets of Rage all the time. But you'd hit each other as well. So then if one of you accidentally hit the other, you'd end up hitting them back and just doing yourself damage, like you're both screwing up the game because you just start fighting each other instead of the enemies. I'm sure I wasn't the only one that did that. I think this is the one with the giant bosses, isn't it, as well, Streets of Rage 3. You get like the juggler and stuff. Oh yeah, remember this. Is this the one with the cars as well, with the specials? Because I know there's a load of Streets of Rage kind of games. But I'm sure this is also the one with the you can press the special button and bring in the police cars with the bombs and stuff. Might just be a different version of it though. Oh yeah, headbutt. Oh yeah, so actually while we're here, let's look at this image closely. Let's check if there is any yeah, there's absolutely no jail bars. That slight noise throughout the image, that's the power supply noise. That's nothing to do with the output. So we're just looking for if there's anything other than that slight little bit of speckles. So see in the bottom left there, the kind of grey with all the dots running through, that's the power supply. That's the power supply I'm using. So that's not noise on the actual RGB. I think the RGB is clean as. This deserves the volume going up slightly, I think. There we go. Ah, yeah, Streets of Rage 1. I bet that's mega. That'll be Master System as well, won't it? I bet that's why I'm used to playing that one. The lag on this stream, I've just been kicking and punching there, and it started coming through about 2 seconds later. Come on, get from behind the box, you. Yes. No, you're not shivving me. Get off. Nut you in the head. This used to just be a standard night uptown on a Friday night. Oh, I don't remember the guns. Of course, Giovanni has to have the gun. Have we got any specials in Streets of Rage 3 then? I don't know if we have. I can just remember 1 and 2 mainly. The graphics are definitely better on 3 though. I like the graphics. I love these Mega Drive graphics. I definitely don't play the Mega Drive enough. Oh yeah, that was a good combo. No, don't shoot me. Just in time. Oh, where are you going? You're facing the wrong way. There we go. Yeah, just an average night up Liverpool. I've only been there once, you know, actually. It's a really nice place, really enjoyed it. Right, well, that's me just playing games now. So I don't know what I'm doing now. Like I say, I think I've done enough on stream. I'm ready to go get a coffee and a chill. But hopefully you guys have enjoyed that one. You can see how long-winded that install is. That's why I don't really recommend it on the Mega Drive. I'm going to make a mod. So this just, all you do then on the mod we make is literally lift them 3, ooh, that's hot regulator. Lift them 3 pins up and solder a flex board on, and that'd be the end of it. You'd be done and installed. You wouldn't have to do all this configuring. So I'll make that mod probably this week. I might even make it today. Got tons of time, so I might make that mod so you can get a flex board for this fairly soon. Get these cables into production now, and then you can upgrade yours to RGB. If you wanted HDMI, then you can just go through an OSSC, or even a cheap RGB to HDMI converter if you really wanted to. But yeah, this is what the customer's paid for. It's obviously an option on our website because I know I can do it with the universal one, but I wouldn't recommend buying this and doing all this work. If you were going to do it yourself, just wait for me to make the other mod. But I will just quickly zoom in on that because this is the visual position that I can need to clean the flux off there as well. This is the visual position of the dials. If you didn't have an oscilloscope and you did want to do this, this one is turned all the way counterclockwise, the gain, and it stops. The DC offset's obviously diagonal, and the divide is just before diagonal, and that's pretty much the same. So it's almost like these two are pointing in at each other, and this one's fully locked if you turned it fully counterclockwise. The sync doesn't matter, leave it all flat, but all them are obviously the same position. So if you did want to install it, you don't need an oscilloscope. You can turn the dials to these exact positions, and then on screen you could tweak the colours and brightness if you wanted. But yeah, that's it for this one, guys. Thanks for joining in, and just remember, if you want your chat showing up on screen, and if you want me to subscriber-only streams where I teach you how to do stuff like this. Drop us a sub on either YouTube or Twitch. There's now members you can join basically to chuck a few pounds each month, and then I'll start doing dedicated streams just for the guys that subscribe, and we can, be a bit more focused on teaching you how to do this if that's what you're interested in. I will be doing a Mega Drive 1 as well. It'll be identical because the Mega Drive 1 uses the same chip. So it's going to be exactly the same, basically. There'll be no difference. So I'll make... I don't know which one make it for first, to be honest, because the Mega Drive 1's probably a bit more popular as well. Either way, I'll make it high-ish priority because now I've decided that's what I'm doing. I'll do it. So I'll see how much time I've got today because... like I say, it's only 7 o'clock. We've got tons of time. I'll probably design it before 9 o'clock before anyone even wakes up. Get it released on the store. That's the scope making the noise. And then hopefully everybody will have a good rest of the weekend. And I'll probably see you. Sometimes I don't stream on a Monday because of how busy it is. But if not, I'll see you on, I'm sure, Tuesday.